A soldier, an airman, and a Marine walk into a room. This show is The Punchline. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and you're watching Veteran Talk Show. All right, guys. So in case you don't know, we are an affiliate for Soldier Girl Coffee Company. I'm super excited about this because they have amazing coffee. And in future episodes, you will see us drinking Soldier Girl coffee. They also have a CBD coffee. So if you need some CBD, which helps support your health in a sense of relaxation, it helps with your sleep and your overall health on a day-to-day basis, then Soldier Girl Coffee has both that and the caffeine you need. So be sure to check out the link in the show notes. Go ahead and click that, shop around, and make sure you get yourself some Soldier Girl Coffee today.
You got the Banquet beer.
Is that Coors Light?
No, it's Coors. It's Banquet. It's Coors Banquet. It's the original.
Okay.
It's the OG.
I feel like I just got severely corrected.
You did. You better be glad you didn't get knife handed.
I've been out there. I didn't at the time. I did
Watch
not.
out.
Like,
I could really fall asleep right now. I'm telling you.
oh Lord, you that tired?
No, well, it's just been a busy week. So yesterday was busy. So with my family, we did a baseball game last night. For as a belated birthday gift
For you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was my sister and her family and my parents and my wife and I. And yeah, yesterday morning was just we woke up and we just cleaned. Because we've been out of the house for last week we were in New York. So we spent 2 weeks straight weekends in New York. We got home on Sunday of last week, and then Monday was like we recouped from our vacation, if you will, and then went back to work. Working all week, and then yesterday was cleaning day, and today was I woke up and played golf, doing this, missing football, by the way. So you should feel honored.
Missing football today?
Yeah.
See, that shows how much I pay attention to it.
It's Sunday, dude.
So
football Sunday.
So do you want to change to Saturdays?
That'd be great. If we could do Saturday, if you can do Saturdays, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. It kind of because I told Daniel if he ever didn't have a guest that he could ask. I said I just need like 2 hours notice. And we had the hike, and then I was helping my mom out, and so 2 or 3 times he's hit me up like, hey, my guest flaked this weekend, or there's an opening, whatever. And I'm like, oh man, like I'd totally be down, but I got this hike, like you should come. I'm helping my one weekend. My buddy Matt took me to Charlotte to see the Carolina Panthers. I mean, the cheerleaders.
Did you actually see him, or were you up in the nosebleeds?
No, we were in the end zone.
Oh, okay.
It was so his boss was like, does anybody want tickets? And then the 2 people that said sure got 2 tickets each. Well, he's going through personal stuff right now. So he's like, you want to go to a football game? And I was like, no, but yeah.
No, but I will.
No, but we got food on the way. We got food on the way back. I got drunk. It was a good time.
It's always fun. I got drunk last night.
So on your live on here, you can support a nonprofit, but there is no search function. So I literally just have to scroll to find the live.
I don't know what you're looking at.
The live.
Are you doing TikTok live right now?
Yeah. Not right this second, but I'm setting it up.
No, we're going to do TikTok live for this?
Well, I'm going to have it facing me so that you're not live on the internet, but they'll hear your voice.
Yeah.
And then hopefully like questions come across. I don't know. Apparently it's a thing. I had previously no interest in going live on TikTok, but
I have no interest in TikTok whatsoever.
If it gets us, these look like they're in alphabetical order. I don't see Irreverent Warriors on here.
Probably none on there.
Okay. Guess we just won't do that right this second. New admin settings available. Moderators. Yeah. Guess we will see how this goes. Raise this up a little bit. Guess if we get,
I'm sending my lovely better half of a shopping list. She said she was probably going to go shopping today.
well, I kind of like that we use Instacart because
it's so much money. And there's a fee for
it. So we pay $99 for the whole year, and then we don't, as long as you order $35 worth of stuff, there's no fee or anything. So I compared it before we like went all in. I compared it to our existing shopping habits and costs on groceries, and it's pennies on the dollar difference. So we spend, I think we spend somewhere around an average of $35 per person per week for meals.
How much?
$35 per person per week. So if
on meals,
yeah. So well, groceries altogether. So that's bottled water, that's eggs, sausage, grits for breakfast, hash browns, whatever she wants to make for dinner.
Please tell me don't do instant grits.
I do.
Fucking gross.
Okay, so how do you make grits, Mr. Chef?
You boil fucking milk and you stir. Instant grits is like
okay,
so we're going
pour them
in and you pop them in the microwave.
Yes,
that's gross.
That is exactly how you make them. It says right on the box.
Yeah, that's
pop in microwave. Grits. Okay, so ignoring the fact that before I joined the Army, I did not eat grits. I thought that I didn't like them, as well as no one else in my house of damn Yankees liked grits.
I love how you threw that one in there. Damn Yankees.
Okay, so my brother is not, and my little sister is not, but the rest of us are damn Yankees.
Yeah. So my family, the only one like my.
So I joined the Army, and when you have food in front of you in the fucking Army,
you eat it.
You eat that shit. It's like prison. It's like if you don't eat it, somebody else is probably going to eat it. So I not only learned to like grits, but I also learned to like his grits and her grits and his grits. And I get food because they didn't like that shit. So
grits, dude.
Then when I got out, I mean, now all of a sudden I like grits with butter and grits with salt and grits with cheese.
Yeah, you gotta have
just whatever.
Hot sauce up in that bitch too.
Hot sauce. Like I like grits now, and I like grits with like make a bowl, and I just put everything for breakfast in that bowl, and then I stir it up. So I don't have a lot of experience when it comes to grits. So it's like whatever. Like the only way I know how to make grits is the box at the store that says grits.
The instant grits.
The instant grits.
Gross, dude.
You're like, you boil some milk and you stir it.
Where
do you get the grits? Where do the grits?
Grocery store. They're there.
I didn't know there were grits. I mean, I know there like oatmeal.
There, yeah.
You have oatmeal. You have like the regular oats, and then you have the instant oatmeal.
Yeah.
So I'm aware of that. I just didn't know they made like a container that's like, if you want grits fast, get that box. But if you don't, get that box. We started an argument. Yeah, grits and butter with salt. Grits and egg.
Delicious. Hash browns grits
are actually the best. Do you have an Instapot?
I do have Instapot. And yes, they are fucking delicious.
What is an Instapot?
I don't know how to describe it. It's like a fucking like a pressure cooker almost. But you can do so much shit in there. We love our Instapot in this house.
So
like we put shit in the morning before we leave for work. We go and we come home and dinner is ready for it. Comes right out and we're going.
That sounds like a crock pot. What's the difference between an Instapot and a crock pot?
Honestly, I don't know. I think the Instapot just has more functionality. Like you can do stuff in an Instapot and it is like done like that. Like I can hard boil like a dozen eggs in like a fucking flash.
Alexa, cook me a Gordon Ramsay meal.
I don't think we do all that. Did someone just ask that question?
No. Somebody said Instapot grits are the best.
I didn't know we were actually. Okay.
I guess we can invite people to watch it too. Okay, so
we're not doing anything funny. We're not doing any crazy dances.
Not yet.
I mean,
on live.
I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I can't dance. People coming in here be like, "Who is this? Who's this fat old dude dancing?" It's like, I don't know.
Yeah. So first time live on TikTok. I didn't know it was a thing. I was not invite another host and go live together. I'm not doing that. So yeah, recording session of the Veteran Talk Show. And if you guys put any questions or anything in there for me and Joe is a Marine and I was in the Army for 10 years and now we sit around and talk about it.
Mainly we just sit around, drink beer and talk about whatever the fuck we want to.
That's 100% true. And then the dogs take up space as well. Normally we have guests. So if you're a veteran, you want to be on the show, I guess.
This is dog church season, so they're not taking up too much space. They're just going to lay and sleep for the most part.
How far do they go when you take them to dog church?
Dog church is about 3 miles, 3.5 miles.
Okay.
Off leash. And then like they stop halfway through and like fetch for like 45 minutes in the lake. So you just chuck like shit out into the lake and the dogs all just go and swim out there and grab it and come back. She's already snoring.
It was a little growl. Her head is up and her eyes are open. She is. You wore out there, buddy?
Yeah, she is. Millie, stop at the paw.
So you said 3 miles and then 45 minutes of fetch?
Yeah, it's like they stop. It depends on what the weather's like. So they'll stop on the lake shore, which is the turnaround point.
Yeah.
And they'll like hang out on the lake. Everybody hangs out on the lake and they'll play fetch along the lake. And some people throw balls into the lake or sticks.
Dog church.
It's dog church, man. It's just it's off leash the entire hike. So, and all the dogs get along. It's nice.
So you guys are done to poop.
Yeah, that one's going to be snoring here in about 10 minutes. I'm dead serious. She snores, dude.
A big dog.
She's a big girl.
Big puppy.
She snores. This one will whimper. And she'll like do the running thing in her sleep when she's really tired.
That's funny. Nugget hasn't done anything like too crazy like that, but
Millie will do that. She'll chase rabbits all day long in her dreams.
I think I've heard him like cry a little bit in his sleep. Like, what's wrong with you, man?
Millie's very vocal when she sleeps. If she's very tired, like usually dog church day when she sleeps, by the end of the night, she's
no, just wore out.
No dog church.
Nuggets dog church is down in Nash County. So that's where her mom and dad live. And that's where she's from. So she goes home to visit and she takes Nugget. And then there's like this yard. So he gets out of the truck and he's like, holy shit. Just running all over the place. Like clockwork, he will poop upon arrival.
Yeah, most dogs do that.
Clockwork, like, we're here. Time to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then he'll run around inside and outside. He just loves it. And then he'll get home. And he does that, but he does it up here on the back. He'll get up on the back of the couch and lay down.
Well, she's still a little wet from, like, we dried her off and let her run around outside when she got home. But So Nicole usually takes him to dog church. I
Oh.
usually go and play golf Sunday morning.
9 or 18?
9. There's a great little 9-hole course right up the road from here.
And that was really the extent of my ability to participate in that conversation.
I have a golf tournament for work a week from Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that raising money or?
Oh, well, it's raising money. It's vendor. It's client. We're building vendor relationships and client relationships. We're basically doing stuff so that our customers can meet our vendors personally, and they can, it's kind of like a networking thing. They also get to meet people in the business at our company.
See, so if I ever finish this godforsaken app, I'm pretty close as I got it where I want it for them to basically be able to do all the stuff that we do now. Number one, without clients being able to see each other's data, which would be bad. But two, so that if you've got a guy that likes spreadsheets and a guy that doesn't, they can both use it in their own way, like how they like to. And once I do that, then we take on more clients. So that'll put me, initially, it'll be pretty easy because I'm looking for 1 or 2 doing 2.5 million a year. There's other conditions there, but how hard is it going to be to find 1 or 2 that fit the criteria I'm looking for when the number of potential clients is astronomical? So it's not going to be super hard to find 1 or 2 of those that will be a good fit for our company. It's when we go into a more of a growth stage where now I'm looking for 1 or 2 a quarter, 1 or 2 a month, 1 or 2 a week, and ramping it up and looking for these clients. I'm going to have to start doing stuff like that, but more in our space. Because if I showed up to that specific event, people would be like, "We don't know why you're here."
What's my event?
Yeah. Because
So my event's like, it's not for, it is invite only. So we are taking our current customers and clientele.
Yeah, but I mean,
our current vendors. It's not like open to, hey, we might want to do business. Let us join your golf tournament. It's like, no. This is like, you're already an existing account of ours, and you've done a lot of business with us.
Yeah.
And we are going to show you, this is an opportunity for you to talk to vendors because they have new things coming out of their line that we are going to have access to. And this may be something you want at your job sites.
Yeah.
So
very similar to what, like with the screen company, they had
the screen company
that I used to work for.
Yeah.
They had Easy Breeze was a brand of it's like this system. You guys might actually have something similar because of the space that you're in, but it's like a Windows system that it's made out of this I want to say plastic, but it's more like a
fiberglass.
No, because it's flexible. It's very,
and their screen.
It's durable. So that's the window portion. And then there's screens built into it. So it's easy to clean. You can get it clear or tinted. You can get like 3 or 4 different tints. You can get 3 or 4 different types of screen. You can get regular screen. You can get a solar screen. You can open it. You can open 1 panel, 2 panels, or 3 panels. And then like when you have it installed, like say you have like a sunroom, if you want like 1 big one for the whole section, you can do that, or you can do 2, or you can do 2 more narrow ones side by side. So if you want to open however many windows you want to open or however much airflow and shit like that. But they had that guy come out and they had like a luncheon. So it's like all the construction companies in the area that already use them for like products and services, but they're like, hey, we got this new thing out and we're going to educate you on it. So if you want to sell it to your customers, now you know how it works.
Well, this is a big thing so I'm there because on my side, I'm just there so that a lot of the customers can get to know, because I'm the new guy and they know that I'm the operations guy and the logistics. so they can put a face to who I am when they're talking. Because I've talked to a lot of them on the phone or via email.
Yeah.
And when they're asking like, hey, this is what I need done. Can we do this? Can we make this delivery happen? Do you have the ability? You know, I'm going for the fact of, hey, that's Joe. Oh, it's nice to put a face to you, you know, and
you're the fucking new guy, and now we know what you look like.
Well, yeah, now they know, you know, who to talk to about logistical stuff.
It's going to be that situation where, like, when I've met someone in person that I've been talking to for a little while, and then I'm like, you don't look like I pictured you. You do not look like what I thought you looked like.
I mean, I have a voice for radio. Football day, man. Football day. That's my fantasy team. I have a couple of fantasy teams.
Okay.
I'm a big nerd.
That's where I do enjoy football. I can't see who this is, but somebody asked, are you guys recording a podcast today? Every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Veterantalkshow.com.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday. This is the first time we've really done anything live with it. We've had
we're testing this out.
Yeah. I guess we'll see how it goes. If it works to get us attention, I mean, really, this episode won't come out for at least weeks, because the way I've been chopping them up and getting like 1 hour episodes here and there.
People just asking questions right now. Ask all the questions.
Yeah, it's not a lot. It seemed they really enjoyed the grits conversation earlier. But
if that's you know, grits are awesome. I mean, who doesn't like grits? I just find it funny that you said "damn Yankees" there. I thought that was hilarious.
That's what we are. I went through. So I told you this story. I went through Special Forces Assessment and Selection in 2000.
I don't think you've ever told me that.
Yeah, I did. I think it was.
I might have. Was I drunk? I was probably drunk.
I think I went through in 2007 because part of the reason I got pushed back from the chain of command, which, if you don't know this, special operations is a recruiting thing. So you go see a recruiter, you figure out what the requirements are, and then you get recruited into it, even if you're already in the Army. So I went through a recruiter and I was like, hey, my chain of command isn't going to let me go. And the recruiter's like, that's not how it works. Yeah. Once you're recruited, we cut you orders. That's your place of duty. Yeah, and the plane ticket comes from HRC, and we say, hey, you go now. So he's like, I see where you're coming from. If you want me to talk to them, I will talk to them. But if you decide that you want to go, then you go. I wouldn't worry about it. And I was like, all right, well, we'll keep trucking and see how it goes. So anyways, I got med dropped. So I went on one of the ruck marches where they're like right face forward march. And then you walk until they say stop, or you see the cones. Like
infantry training in the Marines.
You never know. They never tell you how far you're going to run. They never tell you how far you're going to walk. They never tell you. You'll get done running, and they'll tell everyone to go inside and get the rucksack and come back, and you'll go on a ruck march, or vice versa. So we go on a ruck march. I feel like I was close to the end, because after I just fell over. I like blacked out, fell over. One dehydration, couldn't really be dehydration because you're drinking water.
Bullet. Silver bullet.
There were 3 needles in my arms when I came to, and the X-ray was standing over me, just squeezing all 3 bags at the same time. But it was after I went to the doctor, they were like borderline anemic, borderline low blood sugar, all this borderline bullshit. I've even been diagnosed with like potential heart problems. And I'm like, you guys suck. You're like giving me the half-assed version of everything. Like, is there anything I have that is actually serious and needs to be addressed? But we were turning in our gear. So this other dude like broke his wrist, and I think he was infantry, and he got med dropped for one reason or another, and we're turning it in. And he was, so at the time I did not dip or smoke, or I know I didn't dip. And so, but I had 2 cartons of cigarettes and 2 logs of Copenhagen.
Dehydrated as fuck.
Huh?
Dehydrated as fuck.
What are you talking about? No. I told you it was borderline anemic, borderline low blood sugar. I had the same thing happen again after a run down at Fort Hood, which I got there in 2012. The problem is, and what the doctor said is, I woke up and went for a run. And I came back, and I had like a banana. So as we were sitting in
that's for your beers.
As we were standing in formation, all that energy, and then my sugar levels went up, and then they dropped like a fucking rock. And so that's what caused it there. But anyways, so I had the 2 cartons of cigarettes and the 2 logs of dip, because we called them instant friends. So part of selection is team week. So you can go through selection and do everything. You can be a beast. You can be physically unstoppable. And if you go through team week and nobody fucking likes you, you may not get selected. So I was like, well, if I'm giving everybody tobacco, then I've got a little bit more fighting chance, And I'm not super confrontational in general anyways. So I wasn't too worried about it, but I was giving it to this guy.
I don't make friends so well. I was to bring tobacco.
I was giving it to this guy because I was like, well, now it doesn't matter. And I've got all this tobacco and I don't use it. So he was like, well, I'll dip your Copenhagen. I was like, all right, here you go. I'll keep some more in case somebody else wants some, but have a can. And he was from North Carolina. I'm from North Carolina. So we became, as I said, instant friends. So we're hanging out, we're talking this, that, and the third. And he is just all about North Carolina. He's like, do you watch NASCAR? Like, you're talking like the redneck of the rednecks. And I'm like, well, my dad watched it growing up. I don't know much about it. Earnhardt, number 3, whatever.
Earnhardt.
NASCAR. So I can't really talk to him about everything he wants to talk about, but he is super excited that I'm from North Carolina. I can't remember this guy's name. I wish I could. So anyways, he's getting up. He's turning his gear. I'm turning my gear. They call his number, and he gets up to go. And there was just something where we were talking about the South or how North Carolina is the South. And I'm like, but like, I'm from North Carolina, but I was born in Pennsylvania. And he's walking up, turning his gear, and he turns around. And he goes loud as fuck across the CIF. Oh, so you're a damn Yankee. Why are you so angry all of a sudden? Like, that kind of flipped the switch. He comes back. You know the difference between a Yankee and a damn Yankee?
Damn Yankees live here.
I said, no. He goes, a Yankee comes down to visit and goes home.
Damn Yankee doesn't go home. You know what CARY stands for, right?
Central Area for Relocated Yankees.
Containment Area.
Oh, Lord. I don't think you can say that.
Containment Area for Relocated Yankees. That was always the joke growing up. I mean, I'm born and raised here.
Yeah.
I am not a highfalutin North Carolina woo boy. Like,
this guy.
No.
I'm like, you met this guy, you'd be like, whoa, do you have a volume button?
Like, no, the minute I graduated high school, I was like, all right, how the fuck can I get out of here? And, I spent almost 20 years away from the Triangle living, and, and then I spent.
You're old as shit.
Yeah, well, I am old as shit. You got to make fun of me like that, bro. You got to call me out. All right, now you're just struggling to read.
Well, I don't have my glasses, so there's that.
Yeah, but I've never been that kind of guy. Messing around on your phone. I don't know if I like the live thing.
I'd say it would be better if we had more questions. I think. Just shared it to Facebook, so we'll see if more people jump on.
Well, and your case has glitter on it too, by the way. Is that glitter? What is that? You got a lot of sparkles on your case.
I don't have a case. She gives me whatever one she no longer wants, and she gets another one. So every 3 months, I get a new case, and it is probably the most girly one you'll ever see. My last one lit up.
That is pretty.
It plugged into the charging port and would have a light like on the back.
Why don't you just go get a case yourself?
I just haven't had the time.
Call Amazon. Man. Call Amazon, bro.
No time. No time. No time. Yeah. So I figure if this gets us hopefully people go check out
What kind
the
of questions would people even ask us though?
I have no idea. A lot of the people that I follow and who follow me are veterans or law enforcement.
No.
So a lot of what we're talking about, like
that's why my face ain't on there. I got warrants.
Oh shit! Our viewers are going up, way up. Holy shit! Who is FBI?
Who is FBI? Federal Booby Inspector.
That's been out of the fridge too long.
Got a cooler if you want a cooler.
Oh shit! I probably should have thought about that sooner.
At least keep them somewhat cold. I don't have any ice packs in there. I'm gonna put a fridge up here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this. If this is gonna be the podcasting room, I'm gonna make this we're gonna have a fridge up here and everything.
There's a guy at the warehouse that sells appliances. You can get one of them scratching dents. I guess you could just move the fridge that you have in the garage.
Well, the fridge I have in the garage is
garage fridge.
It's garage. I'm talking about I might even put it in a little kegerator and build a bar.
He makes those too, but I would say if you're gonna do something like that.
Oh, I have my buddy and I can make a kegerator.
I was gonna say just buy the kit and do it because he bought the kit. He got the fridge, so he gets the scratch and dent. So if he gets it from Lowe's or something like that, and the one that he was showing me was like it had a classic look to it, like an old fashioned refrigerator look. So say, I mean, he might pay $150 to $300 for this was a smaller refrigerator.
That's what I
wasn't super tiny, but it was more narrow and a little shorter. And he turned it into a kegerator and then was going to put one in the top for liquor. And I think he said he was going to sell it for like $2,000 or $3,000. And they go for that. Like I looked at the one page, they go for that much.
Yeah,
I was like, that is insane.
Built his kegerator. He's had his kegerator forever. Finally, he's getting rid of it just because they're running out of room, having two children growing up in that house. But he's like, yeah, I'm getting rid of the kegerator. I think he's already got a lot. And it's just a like dorm fridge that he converted. He did it years ago. The kid, he sold it for like $800, I think.
Yeah, I think the kits are like maybe 50, 150.
Yeah, 150.
Yeah, the kits ain't that much, but if you take a $150 fridge and a $150 kit and you make it, then you turn around and sell it for $1,000, $2,000, especially because I was looking and like I don't see any of them under like $1,000, $1,200 on the one page down there. I'm like, that's insane. And then that's his business. So he is in appliances and that's all he does. So for him to also add that, he's already got the audience. That's crazy.
Well, shit. I'm in the wrong line of work. Wrong line of work.
Drill a hole, throw a tube through it. I mean,
seal it.
I think if you did larger refrigerators or, higher end ones and hooked them up like that, plus the kits, I mean, you're buying them in bulk, you're probably getting a discount. I think he said it took him like an hour to put it together.
Yeah.
So if you're bad at it, maybe 2 hours. And you capture the audience and start selling it. I mean, a sale in a single day, if you sold it for $2,000.
I don't think all kegerators go for $2,000 though. I'm guessing I'm getting the dogs now. Bye. Come on.
Come lay down.
No, you don't get up here. You're still wet from the lake. Think she's dry? Right. I'm respecting her space.
She's a dog.
She's like, where are you going? Yes, the space. She will invade your space. This one.
That's Nugget.
Durango.
Nugget was crying today when Toya was taking him with her, just like yapping and yapping, going crazy. He gets so anxious. Try to feed him CBD treats.
Majestic dogs I have.
What were you saying about space?
Yeah. Oh, she doesn't know. She wants me to move so she can lay long ways on the ottoman.
It's like, come on.
Garage door. Okay, don't bark.
It did feel like the whole house was shaking there a little bit.
Well, the door is literally right under us. The garage door.
It's exciting.
Yeah, we're not. I don't know what to talk about today.
So, I mean, we can always get controversial, I guess.
When are we not controversial?
Well, I feel like, I think there's a difference. So I think there are things that you and I disagree on from like a politics standpoint. And that's controversial in a sense that it's a topic which is very touchy in the public eye.
Can I just say, I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand why people cannot have and discuss differences, political differences. I don't get why it has to be. That should not be a controversial thing.
Okay, so I'll tell you a story, but the other thing I was going to say that we do that's controversial is just existing and talking on video that we later put out because we said fuck or talked about like the chicken game in the military.
Oh yeah.
Or it's called gay chicken or something like that. I mean, we had a kid. We had a bunch of people that got Article 15s when they got back from Afghanistan because it was like, you know, you would scoot past somebody and there wasn't a lot of room. So you're literally nut to butt. And so he was like, yeah, they would like make comments when they did it or something. You know, one of the guys that was just a crybaby, he ended up getting chaptered and then everybody else got demoted. And it's like, you're a fucking dick. So stuff like that we talk about.
That's a Blue Falcon.
It's like, come on, man. Like if you're in full battle rattle.
We used to say it's not gay if you're in the field.
Yeah. And then if you're in Garrison, there's Man Love Thursday.
So there's Man Love Thursday. Look, first of all,
so Thursday you take care of everything.
No, Man Love Thursday, as how I remember Man Love Thursday, and yes, it is a thing. It is a thing that I learned firsthand in Iraq. And then I went to Afghanistan and saw it there. And it's a totally different thing there. Like, but it exists. And you're just kind of like, that shit is like, whoa. I remember going into an Iraqi police chief's office and his cop was in the office and we were talking to this dude. And then all of a sudden, this very young boy just arose from like the cloth that was on the cot and like leaves. And the guy says something in Arabic and the interpreter just goes, he just had to go wash his asshole. And we're just sitting there like, the fuck just happened?
We had to talk to one of them, one of the ICOs that we were ripping to, you know, when we were supposed to hand Iraq back. And we ended up having to fire them all because they had ties to Al Qaeda or something like that.
Oh, that's crazy.
So we had hired like, and that's what's crazy is like we have the bat hide system and apparently the records won't show up if we haven't encountered that person before. So I'm like, how is that actually a decent way of conducting background checks if we can't access information that we don't already have? Like it should be tied into another. But anyways, so all those checks came back and I think it was one of those things where it wasn't everybody that dinged or threw a red flag, but it was such a majority that it was like, we're just going to fire them all and hire new ones. But before we fired them all, and then that's when the marshals came in to help us do some training and we provided
the U.S. Marshals.
Yeah. Oh. And we provided security for them to do some stuff. They actually had a house like down the way. They had us over for dinner one time, but it was pretty badass. But before that, before we fired all of them, we had this one kid, and he would work in the D cell with me, because I was basically in charge of the D cell, me and my team, on mostly on night shift. And so he's sitting at the desk, and what's crazy is we're like the same rank, but he looks like he's like 16. I'm like, there's no way you're old enough to be a correction officer. There's just no way. But said he was 21. Didn't look it. He would talk about, he talked about that, how women are for babies and men are for fun. And then he would also talk about fucking goats.
Oh, I got a story about that.
And to this day, I do not know if he was serious or not, but he would go into such detail that we had to talk to him because we had a female. We were MPs.
Yeah.
So we had females, and they would get uncomfortable, and he's just sitting there telling fuck stories and how he fucks goats.
And he was a local. He was an Iraqi.
Yeah. Yeah, ICOs are Iraqi corrections officers. So we were training them. So all of them were Iraqi. All of them were locals. We were training them to take over that mission because we were the page kickers for the Iraqi High Tribunal. So 113 was Saddam Hussein's half brother. Chemical Ali, all those guys, like we guarded them and took them into their court sessions or whatever, but there was like a one-way mirror on the one room where we guarded them. So when they would go into court, no Americans were allowed to be in the courtroom while it was in session.
Well, so when I was in Iraq, I'll never forget this. I had just woken up because we were doing like 6 on, 18 off post. And so like in those 18 off, you'd be like patrolling, you go out on a convoy, you do whatever needed to be done. I remember I had my 6 on was like from like midnight to 6 a.m., which was like the greatest shift because then I didn't have to go back to work until like, midnight the following night. And I could do like, there was so much to do for me, like, because I could go out on patrol. So usually what I would do is I just sleep. Anyways, I wake up and come out of my Connex box, and there's a whole bunch of dudes standing up on the ECP post, and they're all like looking, and they're like, I'm like, what the fuck is going on up there? I walk up, and they're all like, no, dude, he is fucking a goat. That is exactly what's happening. And we all like, we're ACOGing this dude with our sights, and we're like, oh shit, yeah, you look at that. He was far. There was like some like, I don't know, 13, 14-year-old kid just like pounding a goat from behind. And you're just kind of like, holy shit.
Damn.
Shit happens.
It's fucking crazy. I ended it just because we weren't getting much engagement, but I think we got a lot of attention.
That's good. I'm glad you ended it during the fucking goat. That was a thing.
I mean, let's see. Probably should have checked it before and after, but now I'm at 2120 followers, 2119.
Yeah, do something about your pause, kiddo.
The Nug has arrived in Nash County.
She's gonna be asleep here in a second.
So yeah. So I guess that was pretty controversial.
What, the goat fucking?
Yeah. I guess I was thinking more along the lines of today, because I mean, you know me, I consume political content like it's nobody's business, and
I do too.
I honestly don't see the benefit other than I find it interesting and entertaining, and
well, so I
like to keep up with current events, and
so I grew up. Like my parents. We basically, I'll never forget this. We basically had to know civics growing up. So we had to know really at a really young age. When we would sit down for dinner, I will always remember. My sister and I will still talk about this with my parents. It was like we had to know who our senators were, who our congressmen were, who our who were our representatives in the state legislature, who our governor was.
So once you got into the Marines, like memorizing and knowing your chain of command wasn't
pretty easy.
Wasn't too strange to you.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, and then you get asked and you don't know the answer, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, no, that was no problem. But I mean, we had to know. But then as we would get older, and we'd go through, there'd be elections and stuff, especially like right before like 18. So like around starting in high school, it's like when we would start sitting down with our parents, my parents, and we would, you know, if you had an opinion, all right, cool, have your fucking opinion, be able to back it up, but be able to listen to the person who has another opinion. Doesn't mean that that person who has a different opinion is bad, wrong.
So when you
whatever,
when you say that, you're talking about like you guys would sit down as a family, and
well,
like,
I had my mom is very, very liberal,
yeah,
and my dad is very, very conservative.
I feel like my dad is very, very conservative, and my mom has absolutely no idea what's going on.
No.
She has literally asked me at
both
times,
my
like,
parents
"What's this
worked
about
in
this?"
politics and in government for a while. Like my mom worked in state government for pretty much her entire career.
So for them to be on opposite ends, like they're when you say they were in that field and you guys had to know civics, their opinions on what their beliefs were pretty strong, right?
Yeah, I mean, they had strong beliefs. Look, my parents have been divorced for a very long time, but they still we will still, and when we do family events, like when we do family dinners, my dad still comes to dinner. My mom's here, my sister's here, I'm here. You know, we all still do that. That's always happened since the divorce. My dad's always still been a part of my life, and he's always been involved. Like he used to come every Sunday to family dinner when we were growing up, kids. When we were kids growing up, but we would talk politics, and like if dad said something or mom said something or my sister or I said and it was completely out of left field crazy, you get called on it. Like you're a fucking lunatic.
like aliens exist and they abducted me last night.
Like if my sister sat down and was like, flat earth is real, everybody look at her and be like, you're a fucking lunatic.
Stop.
You're done.
Stop. It was nice having you talk. You're not allowed to anymore.
But no, but if you had an opinion on something, like we talk, like my mom and my sister and my dad and I, you know, the big controversy going on with like vaccines and, you know, people vaccinated versus not vaccinated. You know, I get into that argument because I'm a pretty moderate guy.
Yeah.
I think I'm fiscally conservative. Socially, though, I'm pretty liberal.
No.
Like, I would consider myself growing up, like, my dad was a Republican in a sense that Republicans were small government. Like, the government's job is to levy taxes to, you know, protect the homeland, to raise an army to protect the homeland. That's it.
That's it.
Everything else outside of that belongs to the states and only the states. So, you know, the government doesn't tell you who you can and cannot marry, what you can and cannot do with your body. That's what, for the long time, being a Republican meant.
Small government.
Small government.
Nick Offerman.
Yeah, very Nick Offerman. I'm this work.
What's his character's name in Parks and Rec?
Oh God,
Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson. I want all your bacon and eggs. Stop. What you heard was bring me a lot of bacon and eggs. I want all your bacon and eggs.
I call this turf and turf. It's a 14-ounce porterhouse and a 21-ounce T-bone, and I will consume this and this whiskey simultaneously while I smoke this cigar because I'm a free American.
I love that guy. I love that though. He goes, he's like, I'm sorry. Like someone brings him a salad and he's like, I'm sorry. You brought me something my food is supposed to eat. That is fucking hilarious.
When they're doing the pig roast or whatever at the park, and the police officer says, you have to have a permit to do that. He goes, oh, here's my permit right here. This just says I can do what I want.
No, when they're doing the burger cook-off with Rob Lowe, and Rob Lowe's like, this is a vegan, blah, 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 meatless burger, blah. Yeah. Like it's all like done like really fancy. And he's like, they're like, oh yeah, it's like with a garlic aioli and roasted arugula or whatever. And then Rod's just like, this is a burger I bought from Sam's Club with salt and pepper and cheese, put on a bun with ketchup. And everyone's like, oh my God, this is so good.
That's when they did the competition because he's like, you can't make it taste good.
Yeah.
With salt and pepper.
Yeah, that's all it is. I love Ron Swanson.
So yeah.
But no, but like growing up, we would have political debates.
Yeah.
Like I got into, and like I went up to see my wife's family last week, and I was getting into a debate with with her sister, which is fine.
Did she say, like, when you guys were on the way, the token phrase, don't talk politics?
Yeah, no.
When we get there, don't talk about politics. So okay. And then you talk about politics.
No, my wife and I have been together long enough to, like, she looked at me and was like, she's just like, you have to understand, we didn't grow up talking politics in our house. So we have no idea how to do that. Like, politics was one of those things that when she was growing up, they just didn't talk about. Like, that's it. And so, like, in my family, it was the exact opposite. Like, it was, you talk politics, you find the middle ground, you find, because that's the only way that's the only way ideas evolve and things happen. By putting yourself in a corner and drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is where, life is too nuanced to be able to do that. It's not that black and white where you can say, here's the line that I'm going to, this is where I stand on everything. Anyone who's outside of this line or to the other side of it is my enemy. You can't live like that. You'll have no friends. You'll be alone, and you will go nowhere.
I think that's a common misconception from people who do get really heated and draw those lines. Is that there's
heated? I think you should get heated. It's okay to be passionate and get heated about what you believe in.
But people are saying that those who disagree with them are their enemies. For example, there's one thing
which is wrong.
Yeah, there's one thing I started doing, which I'm pretty happy about. It has proven to be pretty entertaining. Is I get involved with discussions on Facebook because I engage with a wide variety of people. And so that's the thing. If you get on Facebook and you only engage with people who agree with you, like somebody's like, Trump was the best president, and then you comment on it and you're like, yeah, then you're going to see more of that person's stuff. Right. And now you're never going to see anything from the other side.
Algorithms are working.
So because I almost exclusively comment on stuff that I disagree with, I see more of that. And in holding those,
I think social media first. Well, so my whole problem with social media, the reason I don't have it, and this is the big reason, is because you can't articulate and have an intelligent discussion on social media. It's just, you can't do it. Having an intelligent debate is sitting down in a room with someone and talking with them and listening to their side, hitting their points, counteracting their points. Because when you're debating somebody and you're talking about political beliefs, especially with political beliefs, everybody's goal is to try and win over the other person, right? If you and I tackle an issue right now that we would be opposite on, we would go into that conversation, me trying to convince you to come over to my side, you trying to convince me to come over to your side. But in that conversation that we're doing almost on the fly, as we're bringing up points, we're bringing up counterpoints, we're talking, we start to kind of see where, well, I kind of agree with what you just said there, and I'm fine with that. If we did this, though, and then we start to kind of formulate, here's that middle of the road. This idea of you have to agree with everything I believe in, otherwise you're the Antichrist, is just fucking stupid. And social media, to me, is the biggest perpetrator of that. They will sit there, the algorithms, right? I don't think it's them. It's not like people. It's just how the business model is. You're sitting there, and so you don't have the ability to engage in intelligent debate, in healthy debate. The algorithm just kind of kicks on and says, here's all the people that you agree with. I don't know what I just did.
We need to get a Phillips head, or maybe it's this one right here. It's one of those needs tightened.
Yeah, but having a political debate, though, I mean, is very healthy, and it's something that everybody should do.
So what I started doing that I'm really excited about, because I'll see someone, one of my friends who I disagree with. I mean, one of these guys is, I went just the other day to fly drones with him, and then we went out to Waffle House and ate. And I think we brought up politics one time the whole time, and it was just him saying, because I mentioned something, and then he was like, I'm not a bleeding heart liberal. And I was like, okay. And then whatever we were talking about. So, but anyways, I'll see a post and then I'll engage. Especially more and more as things are coming out that are so, controversial. People are making comments about it or making a post, and then I comment on it, and we go and go and go. And where it gets derailed is when that guy, who is also friends with this person, doesn't know me, gets on there in the middle of it and goes, shut the fuck up, Ryan. You're a dumbass. You have no fucking idea what you're talking about. You're a piece of shit. Right. So a lot of name calling.
Yeah.
So what I do is the exact same thing. I literally will copy and paste their comment and put their name in it and say, no, you shut the fuck up.
See, and so that's fucking stupid. I mean, it's very childish.
But think about it. Is it not?
What? Is it not what?
Childish.
Yeah, it is.
It's very childish.
It's very childish.
So how do you engage with children?
Well, so here's the thing, though. This is when you're engaging.
So the reason I don't engage
when you're engaging with people on a face-to-face, there's very real consequence. When you're dealing with in a face-to-face, in a room with someone, right? If you're in a room and you're in a heated debate with someone, and someone walks into that room and just stops, you've never seen this guy before ever. Your emotions are high.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say you and I are debating, and then, some random schmuck comes walking in and says,
like Durango.
Yeah. Like Durango comes in, looks at you and goes, hey, Ryan, you're a fucking idiot and a retard, and you should fucking die. Do you think that Durango is going to get out of being able to say that without any kind of consequence? There's going to be a very real consequence that happens, whether there's going to be a verbal backlash to Durango, or there could be a physical altercation. But when you're on the internet,
I would never fight Durango.
I know you would. I would. She's adorable.
Yeah.
And she would never talk like that.
She would never call you that stuff.
Beautiful. Pet my belly. But there's a consequence that happens in face-to-face debate or in live debate, where we all are, the majority of us as human beings, are empathetic to others. Right? There's a very real thing that we have from childbirth where we're altruistic, where we recognize we've done something to hurt someone else and we feel bad about it. Right? Well, when we're on the internet, that kind of is removed because we're looking at a screen. It's almost like a video game. I'm not really hurting anybody. I'm typing some words on a page. That's all I'm doing. That's fine. Right? There's no real consequence to that. So people are more apt to just go on there and be trolls. And that's why trolls are so prevalent in social media. I mean, think about all the people who go on internet just to be mean for sakes of being mean. Like there are people, like they don't do it in real life. These are people, I think of the South Park episode where it's like Kyle's dad is being a troll with his wine. He's like, yeah, this is great. He's like, meh. He's just being a dick for sakes of being a dick. But he doesn't do it in real life. He's a very meek, quiet guy and would never talk like that to someone's face.
I think the Durango analogy was decent in a sense that I would probably say something along the lines of, that was super fucking annoying. and then continue talking to you because we're holding a conversation. We're in debate. Now, if Durango came in and sat down in the chair and began to engage, and then in the middle of the conversation lashed out,
Yeah,
that's when I might be like, well, how about you just leave and we're going to continue?
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying that someone who comes at me out of the blue and just calls me a name, they don't deserve anything other than I can't disagree with your opinion that I should shut the fuck up when it doesn't pertain to the premise of the post, which was originally about a law or current event or politics.
This is why I hate social media, is because you always are going to have that.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking to, like, we have a full discussion with me and this one other person or two other people, and then dickhead comes in and is a dickhead. I just respond in kind because I think it's funny, but I'm never going to hold a conversation with that person unless they bring something to the table. So I think it's the same as the analogy with Durango. You can come in and call me names.
The best response to that, though, in all honesty, next time someone does that to you, like dickhead comes back, just go, quiet, adults are talking. Like, if you want to contribute to the conversation.
I like that reply, and I like if you want to contribute to the conversation, I like that. I do, because I do want these people to realize that if they're going to participate in an adult conversation with adults, they're going to need to also act like it. However,
it's fine.
I think that my response is very similar, because the whole adults are talking is condescending.
If it was a woman, you could just go, quiet, honey, men are talking. And then see,
especially, oh my God,
that blows up on social media from that.
My phone screen starts twitching.
I'm getting so many responses.
A 30-day ban. What's that about?
That's terrible. Don't ever say that.
Oh Lord.
That would be awful.
I got that one time. God, I can't remember the context, but somebody told me I was mansplaining, and I was like,
the best time I've ever seen that used was actually from a girl, and it was fucking hilarious. We were in Denver, and we were actually in a conversation. It was a group of us. Like, we were all sitting there at a bar talking about, and I can't remember. It wasn't. Oh, this thing is busted up.
I'm telling you, there's a screw right there on the tip. It's a Phillips head.
Okay. Well,
whenever you have time, get a Phillips head. I'll try to remember bring one.
I got one in the garage.
Okay.
But the greatest thing was, we were in a group and we were discussing and it was one of those bar debates that's like kind of meaningless, but it was like a debate. It was like, this movie came out in 1985, right? And then like, no, it came out in 98. What are you talking about? So it was that kind of mindless debate.
So like when we were in the field and we were debating over which was better, BAS, separate rations, okay, the money, or a meal card.
Yeah.
So meal card, you go eat whenever, or money for separate rations, but we had no say in how this was dealt with. So whatever we had at the end of the day, it was one of those conversations.
And so somebody interjected something in the group, and I can't remember exactly what was said, but it was so off the wall that there was like 7 of us talking about this. And one person stopped, and the 6 of us just turned and all looked at this person for this dumb comment they just made. And this girl just finally looks at, and it was her boyfriend. She goes, quiet, honey, men are talking. And everybody, she said it to him. She said it to him. And we just all had a reaction from the entire day. We're just, oh shit. Go stand in the fucking corner. Like, it was hilarious.
Oh,
that was the best use of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fucking phenomenal.
When you said a girl said it, I thought you were talking about the mansplaining, and I was like, yes, it's always women that
No. She looked at her boyfriend and goes, quiet, honey, men are talking, which was the most badass fucking response ever. Yeah. Like, we were running around like ripping shirts off. Going, you got fucking burned.
Hey, man, do you get it? You're not a man. Man.
Yeah, exactly.
You get it?
It was one of the greatest fucking things ever.
Like,
I'll never forget that.
you like lifting her up on y'all's shoulders,
Yeah.
like she just scored the final touchdown.
Oh yeah, we were like we were high fiving.
Oh,
She literally got up and nonchalantly just walked to the bar to get another drink.
quiet, honey. Men are
Literally stood
talking.
up.
I'm thirsty.
She goes, quiet, honey. Men are talking. Without skipping a beat, just stood up, walked to the bar as if nothing had happened.
Bang.
Went and got a drink.
I'll never forget like one of my first experiences as a sarcastic asshole in public, like in a group of people. I cannot for the fucking life of me remember what I said. But mind you, like I was raised to have manners. I was raised in a Christian household. I was homeschooled until 9th grade. So when adults talk, you're quiet. If somebody asks you a question, you answer them. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Please and thank you. So the reason I say all that is because if someone else says something and I am sarcastic at this stage in my life where I'm still kind of learning the ropes, I have a gut feeling. Like I feel like I was just mean to someone. And that did not sit well with me. And I was like, and I would get embarrassed and I might turn red. And then I feel sorry for what I did. But we're talking like, I'm like 14, 15, 16 years old.
I was a devil. So here's the sad thing about me is the reason I was such a bad student in school was not because I was dumb. It's because I literally looked at the people and was like, I'm smarter than you. You should not be teaching me, motherfucker. Like that was my mindset. I was like, no. You have a high school diploma. That is what you need to be a teacher in state of North, or at the time, I don't know if it still is. But back then, North Carolina, you need a high school degree. That's all you need to go be a teacher. You ain't smarter than me. Don't fucking sit here and think you're smarter than me. And so I would sit there and I would yell. I would just be like, you're fucking wrong. Nope. You're wrong. That's not how you do this.
I feel like a lot of these took place during your civics classes.
No, not really. The greatest reinforcement I ever had was when my dad. So I had a geometry teacher who was a fucking terrible teacher in high school, and it got to the point where there was a parent-teacher conference. And my dad, since my mom's not good in math and my dad is, my dad's like, okay, I'll go. And so he went and sat down, and I'm literally in the hall because I was like a sophomore or freshman or a sophomore or something. And literally my dad comes out of this meeting, opens the door and is shaking his head. He walks out, closes the door, and he's like, come on, son, she's a dumbass, and just leaves. I'm like, I told you. I fucking told you. Like, no, you want to believe her because she's an adult and I'm just a stupid kid. I told you she was a dumbass.
So I guess the only thing I don't understand is we're talking about math.
Yeah.
Math is in exact science. So how do you have a math teacher who is wrong?
You know? So
they have the fucking answers.
So this is when we were doing. So you came through school in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
You had to do the proof test for geometry. So you remember the proof test, the state proof test, which is not so black and white.
Okay.
But, that's what we were going over. I was like, the rules that you're trying to, because it's all about rules, right? Like you do A and then you go to B and then you go to C.
So I don't think I took geometry until my junior year, because when I went to public school, I was homeschooled till 9th grade, halfway through 9th grade year. So January of 2000, I started public school. They took me there, get a placement test or whatever. They never gave it to me. And because, I failed at home because I didn't study or know anything. I didn't know the material. And I was given like exit exams, like whatever you get on this will be your grade for the entire course. And so they were like, oh, he's bad at math. We'll put him in algebra 1A, which of course is just the first half of algebra stretched over the course of a full year. So then the next year you would take 1B. So after I taught that class, I went into algebra the next year. They were like, well, are you sure? because you only need the 1B. Like you only need that to make up for your algebra credit. Why take the full class if you don't need it? And I was like, I would rather have to redo material at a decent pace where it's like, okay, I'm a little bit ahead of everyone because I've seen it all before, but we're not moving. It's because you're talking about the troublemakers, you're talking about the slow kids, you're talking about people who just don't get math. And I wasn't actually that bad at math. So then I took Algebra 1 the next year. So I think geometry could have been my senior year because don't you have to take an Algebra 2? Isn't there Algebra 2?
Yeah, so you do Algebra 1,
geometry,
Algebra 2, and geometry. Those are the 3 requirements you have to do to graduate.
Because they were like, well, if you take Algebra 1 and you fail, like you'll have to do summer school because you also have to do geometry and Algebra 2. So I did just fine. But so my geometry was either my junior or my senior year. I don't remember. And
well, I had this lady for geometry as a sub. Like my original geometry teacher left because she gave birth and she went out on maternity leave, and she just did not come back. So this was like my sub. Then I got this woman for So then I got this woman again for Algebra 2, my junior year. This woman, when I was doing my classes for my senior year, signed me up for Algebra 2 again for my senior year, saying I hadn't done that good of a job in Algebra 2. And here's the thing, I got a B in that class.
You got a B, and then they just voluntarily like,
and
you're
so
going to take it again.
When I got my schedule for my senior year, I walked in to the office and I was like, this doesn't make sense. I was in Algebra 2 last year. I walked out of that class with a B minus. Why am I taking it again? And they looked and were like, yeah, I don't know why you're in it again.
B is for bravo. You did a good job.
I was like, yeah, like it's not like I failed it or like barely passed. I got a B minus in it.
Yo, if I got a C, I was like, you see that shit? I'm fucking.
And they're like, well, they were like, well, that's the last thing you need for your math class. And I was like, yeah. So they were like, well, all the math, because this was the start of my senior year. They were like, well, all the math classes are full and I can't put you in like trigonometry or calculus. I was like, well, what am I going to do for this period now? They're like, I'll just give you a free period. I was like,
sign me up.
I was like, I have a free period. Then I have off-campus lunch. And then I had Peppy, which was awesome.
Peppy.
So Peppy, I don't know if anybody else in Wake County did. So Peppy was literally physical education with pupil instruction. So basically seniors at high schools will go around to elementary schools and run a PE class every day. All it is. It was so much fun. It was a blast. So like I had a Peppy partner and we'd go to like in like a second grade, like an elementary school, and we had a second grade class and we would do PE with them.
I get it. Okay, I do. But what in the actual fuck? You mean this? Okay, so teachers have to have a high school diploma and we're having other students teach students. Yeah. It sounds like we could save a lot of money, headache, and throw the COVID shit out the fucking window by doing that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Wait. You're a senior and you're in Algebra 2 in high school. Go teach the third graders math.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was.
I don't know third grade math. I'm really bad at third grade math. Doesn't matter. You get a book, all the answers are in it. And the other guy said the same thing, but he's just
so we wouldn't do like the same
and
class
you're
every
away.
day.
So
we would go and do like Monday I went to this school and had this one class, like, and then Tuesday I'd go to this school and I would only do it 4 days a week. Friday we didn't do it.
So was that because of you signing up for something where it was like, I want to get into physical education, or I'm going in the military, or
I mean, it was my senior year. I was trying to find the easiest classes. So let's see. First period.
What can I do so I don't have to do any work?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that right there.
At this point, I was like, I've been accepted to college. I know I'm graduating. I really cannot fuck this up. I don't really want to do a lot of work.
See, I had the work release, so I got out 2 periods.
So I had the hardest class I had my senior year was AP European History. That wasn't all that hard. So I had AP European History. Then I was a TA for Spanish. And then I had anatomy, I think. No, that was my junior. I don't know.
I feel like I missed out on a lot of shit If I could have done that PE
that was
shit,
me working the system. Like that was me knowing what I could do my senior year and to work the system. It's like, how can I make this?
I got this shit figured out.
Yeah. I was like, how am I going to make this work for me the best way? That was it. That was the plan. Like,
you talk to all your friends and they're like, how the fuck did you do that, Joe?
So seriously, like the last half of the day, I was not on campus. I would take my free period, go get high as shit, go meet up with my friends for lunch because they would have off-campus lunch too, because seniors had off-campus lunch. So I would go meet up with my friends after like just riding around North Raleigh, getting high as a fucking kite. And I'd go to like Bojangles and sit down and be like, what's up, guys? And I'd eat food and then I'd go meet my peppy partner and I would play like fun ass games with kids. And it wasn't like PE where it's like, all right, you have to like run a mile. It was like, no, today we're going to play a game. We're going to play like spider ball. We're going to play, we got a parachute. We're going to like do the parachute game and all the like, it was fun fucking games that we come up with. So I'd be high as shit for this. I'd be like, woohoo. And they were fun. The kids loved me because I was so engaged. I was like, that's awesome, little dude. Yeah. Yeah. The shittiest days were like when it rained and we couldn't go outside and do stuff. Like we were like, I remember looking at my peppy partner. I'd be like, what are we going to do today? And she's like, I don't know. Fucking dodgeball. She'd be like, I don't know. Can we go to the gym? Like, no, so-and-so's already in the gym. Yeah, well, I guess we can't go to the gym.
Everybody sit on your thumbs.
So we would do the heads down, thumbs up thing.
Oh, Lord.
We would just try and play. We'd do hangman and stuff. I think it was a lot of fun, though. But and then I would like be done with school. Like I would be like, and then after football season ended, like, so first half of the year I played football. So I had to come back to school to go to football practice or football game. But like once football season ended, I would leave school. We'd call PE class. We'd call peppy class early some days and be like, all right, that's all we got. Good job, kids. And we'd roll out at like 2:00. Yep. We're out of school a whole hour early.
What up? I liked high school. I did. It was a lot of fun. I got involved in.
I hated high school. I hated everything except for my senior year. I didn't like a lot of the people I went to high school with, though.
I did, but most of the people I hung out with weren't in my class.
Yeah.
So they were below me or above me.
Most of the people I hung out with in high school were older, like out of high school. I had friends who were like 18, 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
That's who I would hang out with. I had a handful of like really close friends that I'm still actually really good friends with today. 20 years later. It's been 20 years. But I was not, Mr. Popular kid.
I was tiny, so
I remember actually. I have a funny like.
I was threatened. I was threatened multiple times to be thrown into a trash can, and I was seriously like, I wasn't afraid, but I was seriously like waiting. The one guy that threatened to do it, we were kind of friends. Like I think he was like 2 years older than me.
Yeah,
I think he graduated like way before I did. But I was taller than him too, but he was a football player and he lifted weights. And so I was waiting for the day that he was just going to roll me up and stuff me in a trash can. I was like, it's coming.
Well, see, that was good.
And if there was one of him, if there was just two of them, if there was one, I might have a fighting chance.
You couldn't do that to me because I was the kid who was walking around, who was a foot taller and who was playing football and was like, when I was a junior and senior, I mean, I was a big kid. Like I was probably 275, 300, but I was bench pressing, 350. Because there was a time where I was like, I'm going to go play football in college. Like that's going to be my thing. That did not happen.
I was 150 pounds.
Yeah, no, I was a big dude.
Soaking wet.
No, I was
all my clothes on.
My neck literally started at my ears.
Like if I had my backpack, I might hit like 160.
I was built like a brick shit house in high school. Like if I would go to school before school started and I'd go to the weight room and I'd lift.
You're the guy that I probably wouldn't have talked to in high school. Because I'm like, he'll probably just crush me if I say something he don't like. Like he'll just be like, "Shut up."
I would look at people and tell them that. I'd be like, so I was not the bully or the bullier. Like I wasn't the quiet kid in terms of like shy, but I did not like a lot of the people around me. And so if I didn't like you, I fucking told you I didn't like you. There was not a whole lot you were going to do about it. Like,
I don't think that
like,
you would have
if-
hated me because
Like,
I
yeah.
didn't really do anything.
if you were a rich prick who like walked around, I was like, oh, I got it. I was like,
especially in class,
go
like
fuck yourself, bro.
I went out with one of the super popular girls one time, and that's because
Super popular girls didn't know who the fuck I was.
well, it was. I would say it's an accident, but it's not because I asked her if she wanted to go out. She said yes. But when we were in class, everybody wanted to hang out with me because I paid attention and I knew what the fuck was going on. So when we're doing something and they're like, you can work as groups, I would have the biggest group because they're like, he's going to have all the answers. And the teacher's like, no. And I'm like, all right, I get it, but
Nope, it's not that way.
I'm going to contribute. I'm not going to do your work for you.
No, I was not that kid in high school. So first of all, I didn't want to be in school. I wanted to be outside doing something else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I did not want
that
to be,
lines up with who you are today.
Yeah, I did not want to be the guy sitting in like most of the time in school. I'd be staring out the window like, and teachers would be like, Joe. I'm like, what? There's some deer outside. I just kind of want to go frolic in the woods. I don't know. Like, at least hunt them and eat them or something. I don't know. Let me just go outside. Can we go outside? Like every day I'd come in. There were certain teachers that just kind of knew my personality, and I could get away with some shit. And I'd go in. I'd be like, "Hey, it'd be really cool if we went outside and had a class outside today." And they'd look at me and go, "No, so we go outside and have class outside. You'll go take off fucking somewhere, and we won't see you again." I'm like, that's not necessarily a bad thing. No one here is going to be all that upset about it.
Yeah. So I remember in one of my English classes, there was this girl in there, and it was work as a group or whatever, and we had to answer questions. And I had actually read the fucking book. So she's like, "Hey, what's number 1? What's number 2 or whatever?" And I'm like, "All right." And I help her out, and she sat right in front of me. So I helped her out most of the year. And then I'm like, we should go to lunch or dinner or whatever it was. And she said yes, which to me wasn't surprising because I was like, I just asked her out. And then everybody else was freaking out, like, you went out with so-and-so? And I was like, yeah, why? And they were like, I can't believe she went out with you.
Pretty popular girls. One of the pretty popular girls not too long after joining the Marine Corps. And the girl, I'll never forget it. She started talking to me at a bar because, after you get out of boot camp, you look a lot different. And I looked a lot different. And she started talking to me.
You look like a jarhead.
And she was like, I'm so-and-so and blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are.
I know who you are.
I was like, we went to high school together. We had 2 classes together. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, she's like, I don't recognize you or remember you. I was like, I get it. I was like, picture the annoying kid who was always sitting in the back, like
trying to go outside
and fucking off. Oh, you're that guy. I was like, yeah, that's me. That's who I am. It's like, well, what are you doing these days? I was like, yeah, nothing.
I think I saved 2 guys a little embarrassment because they started a business in downtown Mebane, and I walked in and I was like, hey, what's up? And the one dude was like, he was about to say, I know you're the guy that runs that Facebook page, because he was halfway through the sentence when I know you on Facebook, and I was like, yeah, we went to high school together. And I just said that because I was like, I don't think he recognizes me because I have a full fucking beard.
No.
And in high school, I didn't have any facial hair. And my hair was a lot longer.
Fucking high school. I was not like So I remember getting 2 acceptance letters to college, to 2 different colleges. And literally my decision came in, how far away is it from Raleigh? Like that was how I made the determination what college to go to. Which is a terrible way of, making life choices. But literally I was like, nah, this is the one I'm going to go to because this one's only 2.5 hours away. This one is a whole 5 hours away.
What What college did you go to?
I went to Western Carolina
Oh, okay.
for, we'll call it a year. It's about how much actual school I went to. I was up at Western until I dropped out to join the Marine Corps with like 18 credits to a bachelor's. In fact, my recruiter was like, "Why don't you stay in and just go to OCS?" And I was like, "Look, bro, there's a lot of shit going on here right now. I need to get the fuck out." Like, and I don't want to be just dropping out and doing nothing.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I'm going to drop out, I need to do this.
Yeah.
I joined the Marines.
Yeah, I went to community college for a year. And then I wouldn't say I dropped out. I mean, I passed all my classes and stuff, but I was like, this is not fun. Working my ass off all summer.
I went to college and had way too much fun. Like, way too much fun. Like, that was one of the reasons I needed to leave. Like, it got to, so just to kind of describe to you my college experience, I was sitting in my buddy's apartment one day, and his roommate comes in to the living room with a hefty bag, an outdoor leaf bag. And it is filled with psilocybus mushrooms.
Holy shit.
And he puts it on the coffee table, and we're all just like, we just grab a handful and just start eating them.
Oh my God.
I mean, there was literally, like, I was doing so many drugs and doing so much fucked up shit that, like, there was literally, I came back to my house one night after being up for about 40 something hours on an acid trip and other things. And I literally cut all my hair off. Like, I had hair longer than what yours is now. And I literally grabbed like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was raining outside. I grabbed clippers. I just buzzed my head. And then I took my shirt off and I just started running outside in my yard in the rain. Just because it was what I needed to do in that moment.
Okay.
Like I had a friend, I knew a guy. Well, I won't call him a friend. I knew a guy who I saw at a party. He's like, "Hey man, you want some acid?" I was like, "Fuck yes, I do. I would love some acid. Give me some acid." He gave me some acid. And then he was like, "I don't know what to do with the rest of this." He had a strip of acid that was like in a spool.
Holy shit.
And he's like, "I don't know what to do with the rest of this." And I was like, "Well, we're at a party." Like, he's like, "You're right." He took the whole thing into his mouth and he wrapped it around his tongue in front of me. Like,
is he still alive?
Yeah, but it's not really him. So he went into a 3-day trip. Ended up coming, like, missing persons was filed on him. Ended up coming home. His girlfriend got freaked out because she thought he was going to kill her. Like, he apparently, from her standpoint, he like walked into the house, was like convinced that people were out to get him and her. So he like was trying to get her into the bathroom, and he had like a knife. He's all fucked up and freaked out. And then he sees himself in the mirror, and he starts banging his head on the mirror, busts his whole shit open. She runs out of the house screaming, calls the cops. She has no idea what's going on, other than her boyfriend came home, grabbed a kitchen knife, grabbed her by the arm, and forced her into the bathroom, into the bathtub, and then started banging his head up against the mirror. Like, that's what she knows about the situation. He ended up going to a mental home for a couple of months.
Wow.
Yeah. Never the same since.
Holy shit.
That was the last time I saw that guy, by the way. I've never.
Not hanging out with him anymore.
I haven't seen him. All I know is like the rumors that I got told after that. Like, I saw his girlfriend. His girlfriend told me about that and what had happened. And then never, like, then after that was all rumor and speculation.
That is crazy.
I used to spell my name in cocaine and snort it.
Oh Lord.
Like, I was a hardcore partier in college. Like, hardcore. Like, I loved partying.
Trying to be a lead singer in a rock band.
No. Literally, Blow was like you know the movie Blow?
Yeah.
That's like, that was what I was aspiring to. I was literally growing pot and mushrooms all the time. And it was like, I'm going to do it. And like, we would trade it for other drugs, then get other stuff.
Wow. That is too much. That is insane.
Yeah. I did a lot of drugs.
Yeah. I just didn't like paying for college. So in the Army. One of my main questions to the recruiter was like, "Do we get paid?" I didn't know anything about the military.
I
He was like,
well, there was a few things that happened, and I don't think I'm going to share the main reason on a podcast. But there was one night where I looked at myself in the mirror, and was like, I cannot keep living like this.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to survive if I keep living like this.
Yeah.
And for whatever, I had always wanted to join the Marine Corps. Like growing up, I'd always wanted to do it. And I never did for whatever reason. And I was like, you know what? And I went to talk to the recruiter the next day. Literally, like showed up in the recruiter's office and was like, this is what I want to do. I took an ASVAB. And when I took my ASVAB, I was tripping balls.
You told me about that.
And I got a 98 on that and a 99 on it.
Oh my God.
I was tripping my balls off taking that test. My recruiter was like, you could have any job in the Marine Corps. I was like, I want to be in the infantry.
I want to be in the infantry.
That's what I want to do. They were like, yeah, but you could do anything.
Anything.
It's like you could have a job after 4 years. You could have a 6-figure job if you do this or that or the other. I was like, no, I'm joining the Marines. I'm joining the infantry. That's how we're doing this. That's what I did.
That's funny. Before I came over here, I invited a bunch of people to our page. So they're accepting. So our page is growing. I didn't do that initially because basically the way the algorithm works is if you invite all your friends to like your page, but say you do underwater basket weaving and they're more interested in cars and mechanics, then Facebook is going to show your page to a bunch of people that don't want to see it. But ours is the veteran talk show. So I just invited a shit ton of veterans.
Nice.
So it should work out. But yeah, I mean, controversial stuff. I'd like to get one of the veterans on here that I was in we disagree on the topic. I think it would be interesting because
I think you and I did. I mean, if you want to get into one of those, we can get into one of those.
Well, she disagrees with me, but she was at the hike, so I think it would be cool to have her on. I think her last name is Hernandez. I don't know if you met her. I know she was at dinner, and then we went out. When we went out, we met
the blonde girl. She had like dyed blonde hair, bit on the bigger side.
No, I think I know who you're talking about. Was that the one at the meet and greet?
Yeah,
that came up to me and was like, "I fuck with you on Facebook." I still don't even know if she's actually on my friends list. I half wonder if she didn't just mistake me for somebody else.
Oh.
But no. This girl, we've been friends on Facebook for a little bit. I met her way back when they did another event at
was she carrying one of the flags or something?
I think she had a flag. I don't really know how to describe her. She has like brown hair.
I'm trying to remember. There weren't that many girls there. I'm trying to think of all the girls that were there.
Yeah.
I mean, there just weren't. It was 90% dudes. There was like two girls I remember running with flags that were holding flags. And they were the only, and then there was like a girl who was like an Air Force girl. I can't remember what her name was. I talked to her like 5 minutes. And then there was the other one who was like currently in the Marine Corps, and her dad was a Marine. And they were doing the hike together. She was the girl. Oh, wait. She was the girl when we stopped at the Harris Theater. When the fire truck came in, she was like, I don't remember her.
She lives somewhere here though, because I always see her posting stuff like for sale or whatever. And
I don't remember
Cary and Wake County groups. I don't know if there's a picture of her at the hike on here,
but yeah, there's like, I remember like 7 girls.
Yeah, but I want to have a bunch of those people on. But yeah, so we disagree on. I'm going to bring it up on the topic of abortion.
No, we don't. I don't think we do.
Me and her.
Oh,
uh,
wait, where do you stand?
Pro-life.
Yeah, well, we disagree on abortion.
Yeah, that's. I don't know. I just suspected that you would be a little more libertarian on the issue.
So where I stand on abortion is it is a woman. It is a woman's body. She has the right to choose what she can do with it. I mean, I guess, pro-choice.
I think the disconnect between.
I mean, if it were me carrying it, like if they gave men now, if men were the ones that could carry kids, I will tell you this: abortion would be legal.
You're right, but I think you're right for the same reason it's legal now, which is that men run the industry.
No, abortion. It's not. I mean, they just had a huge Supreme Court ruling that backed Texas's law to said most women aren't going to realize they're pregnant at 6 weeks. Most women don't realize they're pregnant until 6 to 8. At least the women I know who've been pregnant usually find out around 8 to 10 weeks.
You know, I think the disconnect between the two sides is that pro-choice is talking about the woman's body. It doesn't take into account the other life which is involved. And that's where the disagreement happens, because their argument is that it is not a life until XYZ. And the pro-life side says there is another human being involved. And just like when, if you swing a fist, you're free to swing your fist as much as you want until it hits me in the face. That's when your rights end and mine begin. Right. So if you're talking about a woman's body, you're free to make your own decisions as a woman until it affects another human life, which is the baby inside of you. And every successful abortions 100% of the time end another human life. See, because I
don't think it's something that is so black and white that I think the argument of making about life is the wrong argument to make.
Well, but
here's why. There are a lot of different issues that go into why women choose to get an abortion.
Sure.
Right? There is a multitude. It is multifaceted. It is incredible.
Yeah, but most of the time they decide to get or not to get an. The women who decide to get an abortion are making that decision based off of them and their circumstances.
Well, yeah,
not the babies.
No, not true.
So if
not true at all. That is trying to put everything into a monolith, and life isn't that easy. If women aren't making that choice because of their current circumstances, are there some that do it? I'm sure there are. I'm sure that there are women that make a choice in that moment. But from the women that I know that have A, had abortions, and B, that have had babies, they've all said the same thing. And when they go through finding out that they're pregnant, I mean, I think this is where women differ from men, right? Because their brains fire differently than ours. They have a whole host of things that start going through their head. Their brain starts to fire differently once their hormones are starting to swing. And women will get abortion for any number of reasons. Some of them are very valid. I think the majority of them actually are very valid reasons to get an abortion. It's not something that they do lightly. I mean, getting an abortion is, from what I've heard and from friends who've done it, it is a very difficult thing. Very difficult. It is not something that they just wake up and are like, I'm doing it, right? It's not like, it's gig time. What t-shirt am I going to wear type of a decision. It's something that they really, really think about, and they are really conflicted about. And I think that's the piece that many pro-lifers don't understand. My dad's a pro-lifer, and I've talked to him about this, and he's like, well, and I'm like, no, that's not really how it is from the people that I've talked to. It is a it's a very complex issue for the individual who's making that choice. And it should be up to them to make that choice. As of someone who's known people and who's lived a life that I've lived, I mean, if you're sitting there thinking, I can't provide, I can't do, whatever I mean, how do you justify it for someone in cases of rape? I mean, what if a woman gets raped and she gets pregnant through that rape? And to have that kind of trauma and to be just told, you got to deal with it. That's think kind of fucked up.
Well, number one, the percentage of those that exist is
it's pretty high. It's sexual assault happens and is not reported. I mean, it happens quite a bit and is not reported. I mean, you got to think 25 years ago, sexual assaults were treated a lot differently now than they are now. Sexual assault back then, and I know lots of women who, when I was 17, 18, 19 years old, were sexually assaulted, like flat out sexually assaulted. And how, when they were bringing it up to the males in their lives, like their fathers mainly, or brothers or male influences in their lives, it was, well, they were kind of victim blaming, right? So that is another, I think, reason for abortion. I mean, I think it happens a lot more in sexual assault than people realize. So a lot of women don't go and report.
So the pro-life standpoint of the baby shouldn't suffer consequences for the mother's decision still applies in rape to the father as well. Just because the father is a piece of shit doesn't mean the baby should have to give up their life. And in saying that, that's where I think pro-choice and pro-life start to come together, in that if you want to end a life as a result of a rape, I'm for it. The death penalty. Because if someone's convicted of a rape, number one, I feel like if someone's convicted of a rape,
that's the other part of the argument that I don't understand. If you're okay with death penalty and ending a life there, why are you not okay with ending a life before that life has consciousness?
Because we're ending the life of the person who's guilty of making certain decisions, not one who is incapable of making decisions for themselves.
Not necessarily. There have been lots of studies done that says we have sent a lot of innocent people to die.
Sure. But
I mean, we're not batting 1,000 there. You know what I mean? Like, we've sent a lot of innocent people to die. That is going to be something. So if you're for the death penalty, you assume that risk.
Yeah.
You assume that we are going to get it wrong and we are going to send an innocent person to die. Right? That's going to happen because no system is ever going to be perfect.
Yeah, but
right? No, that is the argument, because no system is 100%.
So we agree that both the death penalty and abortion ends a life.
Right.
So in abortion, 100% of the lives that end are innocent.
Yep.
That percentage changes drastically when you apply it to the death penalty.
Okay. What about war?
Well,
I mean, innocent people die in war.
Sure.
Happens. I mean, people die. I mean, you're not ever going to prevent it.
Yeah, but I think giving an innocent human life, I mean, the fact is, if you don't go through with an abortion,
I think
most of the time
begins at a different stage than you.
Well, that's fine, but regardless of where the life begins, if you don't have an abortion, the majority of the time, a pregnancy results in a baby.
So not necessarily, because
majority of the time, there are miscarriages, but the majority of the time, if uninterrupted, pregnancy results in a baby.
If you were to take an embryo out of the womb without the mother, can you keep it alive? That's my question: is where can the life feasibly hold itself? Because that's for me where life starts. Is you are on your own with you do not need anything else
So
to support life other than what you like, water, food, air, right?
So if someone is in a coma, we can just kill them.
I mean, if they're not brain dead, if they're brain dead, unplug them. Because at that point, the life can't be supported.
Yeah, but
like that's my thing. Like I have a DNR that says if I'm brain dead, don't fucking keep me alive.
You're not even joking.
I'm not even joking. Because at that point, I'm dead. Like if you unplug me and the machine's no longer working for me, I'm dead. Just let me go.
So you made the decision that if you are ever at a point where
if the machines
you're never gonna be Joe again.
If the machines are keeping me alive, and there's no my brain and cognitive function is gone, and the only thing keeping me alive is the machines pumping my blood and pumping air into my lungs. There's no sense of me staying in that state.
So I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
So if you unplug me, I am now dead because I can't live.
Yes.
Right. So if I were to go into a woman and pull that embryo out and set it aside, is that thing going to be able to breathe? Is that thing going to have cognitive function? And without anything else, is that going to have anything like that? It's not.
And if we are to end that life, just like we're talking about with the brain dead person, if the brain dead person has a series of events that they go through in order to make that decision and bestow medical say-so upon a family member or legal guardian, should the baby not be allowed the same right?
No. So now we're talking about if and then.
No.
Take a brain dead person is a brain dead person.
But they are given the opportunity to make a decision. You just said that
I said in my case, yes, but we're talking brain dead. Nobody has any say in anything.
Yeah, they do.
No. If a brain dead person is brain dead, right? And the only thing that they can be kept alive on is machines. Is that person still alive? Yes or no? That's the question. You're getting into the semantical argument of, well, this person had time to make a decision and blah, blah, blah. That's not the argument. The argument is if a person is laying in a bed and they have no cognitive function, is that person alive? Yes or no?
I have no idea.
Right. That's the question I'm posing. If that person can be kept alive on machines, great, or not, great, whatever, has no cognitive function, you take the machines away, is dead, is that person alive?
So I feel like what you're referring to as it relates to the baby and the person that's brain dead is sentience.
Yeah. Right. Do they have cognitive function?
So can I kill you while you're sleeping?
Well, I still have cognitive function when I'm sleeping.
But you're not sentient.
No, I have cognitive function.
Well, does a baby not have cognitive function?
Well, not true. Not at certain state, not until a certain stage of life, a certain stage of term.
Sure.
If you have someone who is unable, laying in a bed, whose body functionality will not work unless it's plugged up to a machine, is that person alive or dead?
So what happens if we leave that person alone? What happens if we leave them hooked up to machines?
A person lives forever, essentially.
Eventually they die of probably old age or whatever.
Well, essentially they're already dead.
But they're not. They're not coming back. They're brain dead.
Coming back. They're brain dead. Their cognitive function is gone.
What happens if we leave?
The thing that's keeping them alive, their consciousness that relates to them being alive and or dead, right? And being able to being able to think about things in an abstract way is gone. I told you she does that. Yeah, she's chasing that rabbit, dude. She's chasing that rabbit. But that's the thing, is that.
So what happens if you leave the embryo alone?
It dies
inside of the mother.
But it's inside the mother. So the mother is now the machine.
For 9 months.
Yeah. The mother is still not, but the mother, not for 9 months, for 20 something weeks.
Sure.
Because a baby is viable A baby can become viable at like, I think it's 20 weeks, 22 weeks or something like that. So a baby can actually survive on its own without going to full term. Right. It will need help, right? It could be sick. It would need help, but is still viable and has cognitive function. That's where I draw that line. At 6 weeks as an embryo, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, that doesn't exist.
I see where you're coming from, but there's an end to it. With a brain dead person, there's no end to it. So with a brain dead person, if they say
not true 100% of the time, because there are stillbirths, there are miscarriages. That happens. So at 100% of the time, if it were 100%, every woman who gets pregnant, goes to term, has a baby, then yes.
So
that's a different story.
So as far as stillbirths and miscarriages,
that still happens.
Are those illegal?
No, but you're saying that if a woman becomes pregnant, she will absolutely 100% give birth to that child.
I said most of the time it results in a baby.
Right. And then your other argument is 100% of the time we know brain dead dude is not coming out of it. Right. So
no, I'm saying more times than not. Because I don't know. It's my understanding that a person is brain dead.
There's no coming out of it. Once your brain function stops, you're done.
Yeah. So the difference is with one, after that 20-week period or whatever, we have a baby who is no longer dependent on that life support.
Possibly.
Whereas with the brain dead person,
there's no hope.
They could just be hooked up to machines for the rest of
the thing is
time.
But the thing is, for me, it's cognitive function. Is where does that begin?
Why do
then we have to make that decision for someone else? You're making a decision for someone else.
I mean, if they grow up and they decide they don't want to be around, and the way that
suicide's illegal.
Yeah,
you can't, like, if you commit suicide and fail, I mean, you're getting locked up in a loony bin, but you're still getting locked the fuck up.
Yeah,
but you're putting, and this is the other side of the argument that I don't think people, that I don't understand necessarily, is that your argument is you're sticking up for someone else's life who doesn't have a say, but you're negating someone else's.
That's what the mother is doing by choosing abortion also.
Yeah, but by you preventing that voice, how is it justifiable for you to prevent someone from speaking and use the argument, I'm looking out for someone who can't speak?
Right, because if the mother makes a decision for herself, it ends that person's inherent rights.
Which I don't think that person has any inherent rights. I don't think it has cognitive ability to understand its rights.
And that's why I said at the beginning that the disagreement is not whether or not abortion should be legal, but where human life begins.
Well, yeah.
And science and the law both say conception. The Times.
No, not science. Science doesn't say law. Science doesn't say life begins. The process of life begins, but it doesn't say cognitive life. Cognitive life is a very abstract thing.
Yeah.
It's not a scientific process thing.
So Princeton wrote a report that says life begins at conception. Legally, they talk about how life begins at conception. And I believe it was the New York Times put out an article referencing that life begins at conception. Well, my only argument is, regardless of where life begins, if uninterrupted, it will result in a human life. So just because.
Not true. That's the point. That's the argument, though. It does not mean it's going to result in human life.
That's how babies are born.
Yeah, but what happens but there are embryos that don't even make it through the first trimester because of miscarriages.
Sure, but a miscarriage, you don't have to have an abortion for a miscarriage.
No, you don't also need medical treatment for a miscarriage. There have been women who have had miscarriages and don't go to the hospital for it.
You don't need an abortion for a stillbirth.
No, but they happen. So your argument of it's going to result in human life is null and void.
Not
Yeah, because they aren't coming because they're never alive. The machine is getting unplugged and the machine is rejecting it.
I'm talking about the embryo.
Yeah, it needs
once the egg has been fertilized.
Yeah,
uninterrupted. It results in a baby, even if there's a miscarriage or a stillbirth is still a baby that did not make it. So taking into consideration the fact that 10 out of 10 people die, that's a statistical fact.
Yeah, everybody dies.
Yeah. You can't die unless you are conceived. Human life. So
I just don't think
you can't have
I don't
a
think
miscarriage.
You're born yet. I mean, I just don't think you're a born human being.
Well, sure, but I mean that brings us back to the argument. I mean,
I think when a sperm fertilizes an egg and becomes an embryo, I don't think that's life. I don't think you have a soul. I don't think you have anima. You don't have emotions. You're just a cell and you're going through meiosis.
That's true of even the bacteria they found on Mars claiming that it's life.
Well, I mean, that's fine.
Well, then we should have a standard.
I mean, if you want to define what life is, then define what life, that's fine. I think it's amazing that you have cells that exist on their own. So again, though, the cells on Mars are existing on their own. They do not need anything to exist.
But
no. There is nothing giving them. There's no machine providing them the nutrients to live. They are surviving and living.
But if we take them out of that environment, because that's what a mother's womb is, an environment.
Yeah, but the mother is the machine. Pumping the blood, feeding, circulating. The mother is the machine.
Sure, but I feel like that's true of a lot of things. If you take it out of its current environment,
no.
It's not to exist.
It's not the environment. It's the machine.
Sure, but
it is the blood pumping the brain dead and pumping the air into the brain dead person. That is what the mother's body is in pregnancy. That's how I associate it. And I know if women are listening, they're like, oh my God, please shut the fuck up. But that's how I equate it, is that the without the mother there, if you unplug the machine from the embryo dies.
Right.
There is no hope.
Right.
Just like if you unplug the machine from the wall, brain dead person dies. There is no hope. They cannot live without it. At all. They have no say. Power goes out. There's a shock to the system, whatever. Machine shuts down, that thing dies. That thing no longer exists in the philosophic plane that we are talking.
We're going to get more views on this episode than we've ever seen in our entire lives.
Well, guessing people who watch this are probably mostly going to disagree with me. But it
could be 50-50. You don't know.
But here's the other thing for me is that this is why I'm for small government, is because this should not be a question of government or religion.
See,
this should be a question.
I 100% agree with you.
This should be a question on an individual basis, and we should step out of it and not choose at all.
And that's one reason as well why I disagree with the Roe v. Wade thing, because that's on a federal level. All Texas did is they found a loophole in the system and created a law on a state level. So at least down there, we're moving in the right direction as far as it being on a state level.
No, I think so. What Roe v. Wade does is it protects the right for a woman to choose. That's what Roe v. Wade did.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I disagree with it having to exist in a sense that if you're going to give the rights to the individual, then it.
Well, so here's where
we shouldn't have to have that.
Well, so here's where the law is. This is why we have laws, is that it protects it protects so that people can infringe on other people, right? So Roe v. Wade basically says you can get an abortion if you want to, doesn't mean you have to, right? What Texas is doing is saying you can get an abortion up to 6 weeks. Because Texas is drawing that line in the sand going, we recognize life doesn't begin up to 6 weeks. That we are drawing that line in the sand and saying, this is where we think life starts.
And it's speculation, but I would say it's during the conversations, it was like, somebody says, no, we should outlaw all abortion.
This was a political football. Texas basically said, no, this is very like this. This is what they did. Texas said, we know that 98% of women are never going to realize that they're pregnant at 6 weeks. So we're going to put it at 6 weeks so that we are essentially outlawing abortions is what we're doing.
But
we are taking that right away from a woman to choose. We are now telling them, no matter what, we are now infringing on your choice.
But doesn't it just provide the ability for someone to file a lawsuit?
No, the Supreme Court just ruled.
No, I'm saying
Supreme Court has upheld it.
If somebody goes and gets an abortion and I know about it, I can sue the doctor, the Uber driver, the taxi driver.
So now we're back to the 1600s and hunting witches, because that worked out well for us,
right?
There was no innocent people that were killed for that, only witches. There was no greed involved there. There wasn't one dude who's like, you know what, I like that person's land, but I can't have it. You know what? They're a witch. I saw them dancing with the devil. Oh, now they're hanged and I can get their land. Sweet. Yeah, there's no greed there. That's all straight religious. Yeah, that's essentially what Texas has done.
Yeah.
And yeah, human beings aren't greedy.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I think that's a terrible thing.
So I'll insert my anecdotal story here.
Hold on, let me go take a piss.
Okay. Good luck.
Knock it over.
Don't tell me how to live.
Don't tell me how to live. That's my only life.
Recording in progress.
So we were talking about fortunes, which is going to bring me into the next subject.
Oh, this is exciting.
This is going to directly relate to it, right? So you believe in protecting life and the voice of protecting those who don't have a voice, correct?
Yes.
Right. That's your argument for being pro-abortion.
Yeah.
For pro-life.
Yeah. I think the primary one, yes.
Okay. So if that's your argument to say we shouldn't allow abortions, then what's your argument for not saying? Because what's your argument about vaccines then? Because I know you don't want to get vaccinated, and you don't think we should have to get vaccinated. But if your argument is you're looking out to protect those that don't have a choice, there's a vast percentage of our population that is our children that cannot get a vaccination because they are not allowed to.
Because it's not approved for people under 12?
Because it's not approved for people under 12 because they're still trying to work those out. But it is approved for people over 12. So then what is your argument? How do you protect those people who don't have a say in whether they get a vaccine?
I honestly don't think I understand your question.
Your
are
argument for pro-life is that you're being a voice for those that can't have a voice.
Sure.
Right? People under 12 in this country, when it comes to vaccines, don't have a voice. People over 12 do.
Well, I mean, technically, I think people under 18 wouldn't have a voice, because if you qualify for the vaccine and you live at home and your parents say you're getting vaccinated, you live with your parents.
Right.
You're 15 years old. You're a minor So unless you're going to get emancipated and learn adulthood early,
Okay. Let's get away from that. But you are fine with people not getting vaccinated to protect vaccine.
So my position on vaccinations, I believe I probably agree more with Ben Shapiro than anyone, and that is the vaccines work.
Yes.
Okay. They are effective. If you get vaccinated and you do happen to get COVID or the Delta variant, you will more than likely avoid hospitalization and death because you were vaccinated.
Right.
I do not agree with the mandates. That's where I disagree with vaccination. I don't think the federal government, like what they're doing right now, is if you run a company.
So you and I agree on that, right? So I agree the same
I don't think
way.
you should be mandated.
I don't think you should be mandated. I sure should. Don't think there should be passport.
Because now, and this is exciting. I'm glad I agree with you there too. I'm glad you brought that up because Joe Biden, through executive order, has put a mandate on companies with 100 employees or more to force their work staff.
He's mandated federal employees
to either get vaccinated or get tested on a regular basis.
Right.
So what Ben Shapiro said is if you have a company of 100 employees, you just fire 2.
Yeah, you just fired 2 of them.
And I said, if you have a company of 100 employees and on the payroll, you're one of them, then instead of taking a paycheck from now on, just fire yourself and take disbursements.
Well, there you go.
Because then you're not technically an employee of your own company anymore, and you're at 99 employees.
But I think the argument still stands, though. If you're going to argue that, I guess this is where in my brain it doesn't make sense, because my argument for right to choose for a woman is the same argument that I have for not mandating vaccines. That is a choice up to the individual. To hell and be damned of everyone else around them, and it is their choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's going to be a segment of the population that just has to deal with whatever that outcome is, but I'm okay with that. My risk assessment tells me I'm fine with that. I'm the same way with abortions. It is up to the individual person to choose, and yes, that choice is going to detrimentally affect another segment of what you consider the population. So in my mind, I find it, and I don't mean to sound belittling or anything, but it is a bit hypocritical if in one sentence you are going to say, I disagree with vaccine mandates because I believe in free choice, but then you turn around and say, but I disagree with free choice when it comes to abortion.
So that brings us back to the original disagreement of when life begins, and the fact that pro-lifers do not believe that the choice applies to the mother. That's where the disconnect is. The pro-choice side is arguing for the decision of the mother. The pro-life side is arguing for the rights of the baby.
Right. No, I get that side of the, but here's the argument of the vaccine is that you are now the pro-choicer in this on the vaccine side. Because the 12-year-olds who can't get the vaccine is relying on everyone who is eligible to get the vaccine to get it.
Yeah, but
there is a child out there that is immune compromised, who has immune compromise and who is at serious risk for dying of COVID, and is relying on everyone who can get the vaccine to get the vaccine to protect him from herd immunity. He is relying on you just as the embryo is relying on the mother to take it to term. You are okay with one person saying, nah, I ain't going to do it and keep that kid at risk. But you are not okay with one mother saying, I want to get rid of this embryo.
Yeah. So the number one, the likelihood of that child, number one, getting COVID and dying from it is already minuscule in comparison to abortion. If a mother gets an abortion, once again, most of the time
it ends. Statistics, you're not looking at a 1-for-1.
Sure,
So
but
if you're trying to protect life,
statistically speaking, more people die from abortion than have from COVID.
well, that's because COVID's relatively new and abortions have been around for a long time.
If you look at it from a per 1,000 population basis,
Per capita?
more people have died from abortion, and more people die from abortion than they do COVID. That removes the length of time that said infection has been around, because you're measuring one for one. 1,000 people, 1,000 people. I want to say in 2016 it was like 11.3.
I would have to see numbers of how many people got abortions. I don't think those numbers exist.
Why not?
Because it's not something that people are documenting because of HIPAA.
No, they exist. Planned Parenthood has to report their numbers as well. So abortion statistics exist, but abortion always ends in death. But you're someone else. So I think where I disagree most is because number one, the child and their parents have other options. So number one, if I have a child that is that high a risk, I'm going to be a lot more careful with them. But I like to think of things in terms that I can control. So where I believe the decision applies to the individuals here is on the person who cannot get the vaccine and their guardians, not the other people to get vaccinated or not get vaccinated. Because in what world, even if you mandated the entire population has to get vaccinated, there's going to be someone who doesn't want it or isn't going to get it. So at that point, number one, how do you handle that situation? And number two,
so that goes back to, so the argument there is if you outlaw abortions, women are still going to want abortions. They're still going to go and get abortions.
Sure.
So it's, I think, a moot argument that you're making. Like if your argument is they can choose still not to go get it.
So what's going to happen to the people who decide to not get the vaccine if the entire population was mandated to get it?
I mean, what happens to the woman who decides to go and get an abortion after it's outlawed?
According to the left, they pay for it, and
no,
it's
not
just
if it's
black
outlawed.
Black market thing.
So
they pay for it and they get it anyway.
It's done in the secrets. It's done in the shadows. My guess is if you mandate vaccines, that person then lives in the shadows.
I think I would be okay with that.
I mean, when I say the shadows, I don't mean he's like he goes off into the woods and lives. We don't know who he is, and he becomes
the other thing is, as it relates to abortions, the place where the choice to have or not have a baby happens before conception. Okay, and that's where the other options exist. Okay, so I am in no way saying that, oh, they should have decided that beforehand, because then we're going back to the conversation of sexual assault and all these other things. But I'm saying that other options exist in a sense that when it comes to the vaccine, there are other options. Number one, I told you before that I'm pretty sure I already had COVID. At the time, the guy I was working with, he's Chinese. He had just gotten back from China around the time that the U.S. government said, oh, I know we told you we thought it got here in January or February, but it actually looks like it might have been as early as August. Okay. And at the time, he was concerned with supply issues because Wuhan is the major area for distribution and stuff as it related to a lot of the products that we were handling. So I'm pretty sure I already had it, in which case natural immunity based off of the antibodies is a very real thing. There are people who argue that if I were to come in contact with someone that had the Delta variant, it could be just as severe as getting it the first time, but factor in the fact that I am not in a high risk category. I'm not super concerned about it. But what I'm saying is there are other options.
Is not affecting those in a high risk category. That's what makes the Delta variant and the other variants so much worse than original COVID.
So if I didn't want to get the vaccine, one of my other options is to stay home. In a world where the people who are afraid of getting COVID and do not want to get the vaccine wanted to choose to stay home, that would be
but that's not the argument. The argument is, yes, you can choose to stay home, but if you're not vaccinated, you are still going out and you are still interacting with the population. That's the argument. Is you can choose to stay home, but you're not choosing to stay home. You're going out, you're going to places unvaccinated.
I'm saying the people
and
who
you're
are
helping to spread the disease. So there's no herd immunity.
Well, I mean,
you're not immune to it.
No, but herd immunity has and is being established. Herd immunity is established by exposure.
No, not necessarily. It's actually no. Polio. Well, there was no herd immunity to polio until there was a polio vaccine. When polio vaccine came out, there were lines in this country out the door to go get the polio vaccine. And then that essentially killed polio in this country. Now, it didn't kill it everywhere in the world, but the herd immunity became so strong in the United States that our generation didn't need the polio vaccine.
Did we get it in the military?
We had to get it in the military because we went to third world countries and this is the other thing where people are freaking out about the military, and the military people are like, oh, I was like, motherfuckers, day one of boot camp, as I recall, you have to go step
more needles.
You get more needles on day one of boot camp, and they're not telling you what they're injecting.
So I do know people in the military who are opposed to the vaccine and not going to get it. The difference is people think that they're going to be facing a dishonorable discharge, and that's just not true. They're just going to chapter them.
Yeah, they're going to chapter you.
You might get like
I never had a choice on anything that they told me I had to be injected with.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you did, but if you got to in process,
my orders were I had to go get, like, let's say anthrax. Anthrax wasn't given to me at boot camp.
Right.
I had to go get anthrax.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get TB. They told me I had to go get those. I had to get smallpox. I had to report to BAS to get those injections.
Yeah, but there were people even back when this stuff came out who refused it, and they got chaptered. The same thing has already happened in the military.
So what I'm saying, an option for me, there was, you do this or you're going to get fucked.
Well, sure, but that's where I'm saying you had the choice. People still have the choice. It's just not like it is with this, where it's so much of a political debate, and there are probably many more service members now wanting to refuse the COVID vaccine than there have ever been with any other vaccine. But they're not going to get it
either. I don't understand why there's such for a certain segment of our population. I do understand the hesitancy.
So in my opinion, I think that if the government tells the entire population to go get vaccinated and we all do it, it sets a precedence. Now they can do whatever they want. Go get this stuck in your arm. Go get this done.
Asking and ordering, right? If they're asking us all to go get mandated, or if they're asking us to all go get vaccinated, and they're not making it mandated, they're just saying, please, please, God, please do this, and we all choose to go do that. How bad is that?
I mean, like I said, it sets a precedence.
Yeah, but if it's a choice that they're laying at our feet, how is that bad? Because hey, guys, let's give up your guns. Well, I'm not going to listen to that one. Fuck you. I'm not giving up my gun. Okay, well, we just thought we'd try. Cool.
Sure, but
they're not mandating it. They are asking it.
I see what you're saying as far as they're not strong arming us, but
yeah. So what's the So then what's the argument, though, as setting a precedent if it's a request and not a mandate? Because up until now, it has been a request to go get vaccinated.
Because number one, because that's a fine line. And number two, it's been a request.
It's not a fine line. It's two distinctive things. There's a difference between a mandate and a request.
Yeah, but what's to stop them from when they get pushback of mandating it? I mean, they're doing that now. And then the people who are work for companies with more than 100 employees where the vaccine and tests are mandated. They choose that they don't want to participate in that. They're without a job, so they either have to find a company to work
Well,
for.
so those laws have existed in our country for a long time, actually before COVID. So if you wanted to work in healthcare or education or go to public education, you had to get certain vaccines in order to attend those. That was a requirement to go. I can remember having to go to get certain vaccines as I went through school. I had to get them in order to go to school. The order was, you don't have to get them. That's fine, but you can't come to school if you don't have it. Same in healthcare. So we've had this for many, 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 many years, decades.
Yeah, but how does applying it to a certain size of company correlate at all with requiring someone in healthcare to have? That's an industry. So, like, we were required to have certain vaccines being in the military, right, because you might travel to another.
I'm not saying the size, but I'm saying that there have been requirements in certain aspects of life. In order to access this thing, you had to show that you've been vaccinated against X, Y, or Z. Had to. You had to go get tetanus if you wanted to go to summer camp. I remember that. Like, I remember you had like certain around here. If I went to summer camp, I had to go get a tetanus shot. Otherwise, the camps were going to be like, nah, this kid can't come.
You know, I'm pretty sure I had to have that to volunteer at Saving Grace.
You had to get certain vaccines if you wanted to access certain things in society.
No.
That was just, and it was okay. So why all of a sudden is it now not okay?
Why all of a sudden is this specific vaccine when there are other options? I'm going to take a lot of heat for this one. Ivermectin, Joe Rogan.
I don't think
the mainstream media calling it a horse dewormer.
I don't think there is enough. And I had this argument. I agree with you. I don't think there is enough data to discount ivermectin as not as a cure-all, but as a preventative measure.
I don't think it's
I don't think there is enough science.
I think the ivermectin is applied after someone gets it. So number one, I don't think it prevents it.
Actually,
I think
no, that's not true. So like Japan, Argentina. Was it Japan or Argentina? There was a country where the health minister said, where the health services are taking ivermectin as a preventative because they're
giving it to the Afghan refugees that are coming into the country.
Well, they're giving it to them as a high risk because they're at high risk to get the disease, and there is data that supports the conclusion. Doesn't mean that it's concluded as fact, but it supports the hypothesis that ivermectin helps prevent to get the disease. And if you are someone who is healthy, there's data that says if you do get the disease, that it helps to prevent harsh effects.
No.
But there are certain things, you've got to catch it at a certain point. You've got to have. So it's not a cure-all. Do I agree that it's something that should just be discounted? No, absolutely not. It needs to be studied. We need to have our scientific community needs to openly go through the scientific process and determine if this is something that is allowed to. It's not something that we should say, you've mentioned ivermectin on social media, therefore we're shutting you down. That is absolutely wrong. 100%. There is no justification for that whatsoever. I had this debate with my sister-in-law, who is a doctor, about ivermectin. I said my argument to her was that because she said all the things about how it's not real, it's fake news, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I understand what you're trying to tell me, but there are people in your field, in the medical field, that says there is data that supports. So there is a debate to be had. Not saying that one side is right and the other is wrong, but there is inconclusive data that is out there, that exists, that means that there should be debate. That's what that means, that we should be looking at it in an objective way. Right now, what I feel like we are doing is we are forming conclusions and then picking data to fill that conclusion. We aren't looking at data to form a conclusion.
I mean, it's ivermectin being used as a treatment is comparable to administering a vaccine that had an emergency authorization from the FDA, where we in record fucking time put together a vaccine. Like that is,
I'm not.
That is a feat of history.
I'm going to go get my Phillips screwdriver for this. I don't think there's enough data to say that.
Well,
I don't think there's enough data to not say that.
Ivermectin has been, as by itself, approved by the FDA since the 90s.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing any of these points. That look, I listened to the podcast that Joe Rogan had with who were the two guys that were on there? It was like a month
I haven't
or two
listened
ago.
to him as much since he went to Spotify.
There was a month or two ago where he had. Look, what I'm trying, I think the big thing is that you can't put all your eggs into the basket.
So my question is, if that exists,
that's not how science works.
If hydroxychloroquine was a potential thing, if there are other options,
well, there's no data to support hydroxychloroquine. There's none.
If these other things exist, now, not to mention, I'm gonna fuck this up. Monoclonal antibodies.
Yes.
That is a treatment as well that I believe a nonprofit put together. I want to say maybe November of last year. And it is not only effective, but it's already had all these studies and stuff. And the reason why you haven't heard about it, like the director is trying to talk to the White House to be like, hey, we need to get more attention on this. Why they're providing it for free, just like the vaccine. But my concern, so one of your original questions was, what's with the hesitation of people not wanting to take the vaccine? What's with the ramped up urgency of having to get the vaccine when there are so many other options?
Okay. So first off, there are the options that exist do not have the data that the vaccines have.
According
to what I heard, they're not FDA approved.
The monoclonal antibodies. I don't even know if I'm saying that right.
I haven't heard. I don't know what kind of data.
Exactly. You're proving my point. Why?
Well, no, that's me personally. That's me personally. Sure. I don't know. I haven't heard of it. Is what I'm trying to say.
Why are the mainstream media and the White House putting so much emphasis on the vaccine?
We're getting into a different conversation now when it comes to the message that's being told.
Yeah.
That's a totally different conversation, I think.
So to me, that you asked about the hesitation as it relates to taking the vaccine. To me, that throws a bunch of red flags.
What throws a bunch of red flags?
The fact that it's like the vaccine is your only option. And you either get it or you don't. And if you don't, we're going to continue to enact mandates until you do. When it comes to the military, I think the military should get the vaccine.
So you're saying,
I think if you're in and you're risking getting kicked out of the military because you won't take the vaccine.
I just want to make sure I understand this. So you're saying that and I'm trying to formulate my argument here. If there was more discussion about other things, like, okay, so let's say if ivermectin was allowed to be discussed in a sense of not being censored, or this mono whatever thing
and referred to by its name as opposed to horse dewormer,
right? If there was credence given to that, and the same amount of credence given that the vaccines were, you would be okay with taking one or the other.
I would definitely consider it more than
because you have options. So what you're saying is because you feel like you have options, you have more informed of choice.
I feel like as it relates to I don't know, you brought up polio, smallpox, anthrax, I just
Which, by
feel-
the way, ivermectin does not help you with any of this, by the way.
I just think that
Or horse dewormer, however you want to listen to it.
yeah, but
If this were on YouTube or Facebook, I'm pretty sure we'd be getting shut down for this podcast.
so they don't do that. I think they just demonetize, and our YouTube channel is
No,
not,
they shut you down.
Oh, well, I guess we'll find out.
They've sent
Because
Bert he's a YouTuber. Bert, he's been on Joe Rogan. Bert,
use your words.
I can't remember his last name. I want to say Weinstein. That's not right. I don't think.
Harvey?
No. Harvey? No, that terrible person is.
So I see where you're coming from, but I feel like we're not gonna deal with that because we're not big enough, and our channel.
We're doing this early.
Our channel isn't monetized,
But
so we'll get shut down in 5 years when we're making millions of dollars.
I
And they're
wish
like,
we'd be making
you guys-
millions of-
you guys made a video that said the I word.
Yeah.
Click.
Ivermectin, you guys are fucking canceled.
Fuck you.
But here's-
Fuck your channel.
So I guess what I don't understand is that it's about the amount of choices you have. That's kind of the
No.
crux.
So I come in your house, you're making drinks, right? Say there's 5 or 10 people here, you're making drinks for all of us. The glasses are on the
What kind of
counter.
party host do you think I am?
You're making 5 drinks.
We're all doing blow, bitches.
There's
Let's do this.
there's a bag on the counter. There's ice cubes in all the glasses. Then you go through and you pour it. Then you pause. Okay. Now your back is to us. We're chilling in the living room, but I notice, and you pause by say one of the glasses for an extended period of time. Maybe you do it all of them for the purpose of the analogy to work. Maybe you pause at every single glass, but there's already ice and whiskey in it. So what is he doing? And then you come over. Now we're in the party, we're hanging out. Maybe you got different people here. And you go to pass them around, you go to give everybody a glass, and we're gonna do a toast. And one person is like, you know what? I had a lot of whiskey last night. I don't really want any. Somebody else is like, oh, I got to drive after this. So, I want water or Coke or whatever. But you're like, look, number one, it's going to help you out. Hair of the dog. You should take it. With you got to drive. We're going to be here for several hours anyways. One drink's not going to hurt. And they're like, cool. Appreciate it. I see you already poured it, but I don't feel like it. Now you're getting to a point where you're pressuring them like hardcore. I know you want a different drink. I know you think that I have Coca-Cola in the fridge. I might have one. I don't know what's over there. Could be horse dewormer. But I have this whiskey, and this is an expensive bottle. Like, you have to try this. It's so good. It's the best whiskey you've ever had. At the point where we're on the second, third, fourth time of you pushing his drink on this person, I'm like, why doesn't he just go get him a glass of water? Why doesn't he just go get him a Coke? Why do they have to take this? And why was he paused so long over there? So the fact that it kind of comes back to following the money. The fact that the government is funding XYZ and the pharmaceutical companies are getting their funds from XYZ. It's like a gentleman's agreement behind the curtain where now they're like, okay, if they use this treatment, or say they're my age, when I got it, none of this shit existed. So I didn't even know. I just thought I was deathly ill. And I stayed home and I drank tea and I took cough drops and a lot of NyQuil and Dayquil and just thought I was just sick and fought it off.
Or you could have just been sick and fought it off. It could not have been COVID.
I have.
You don't know if you've had COVID.
I have not been checked for the antibodies.
You don't know if you've ever had COVID. I think we need to stress that piece.
I mean, that's fair, but I could get checked for the antibodies.
That's fine. Go get checked for the antibodies.
But
I don't think that test exists the way you think it exists either.
Based off of how they talk about COVID, how long I had it, and what my symptoms were, I'm 99% sure it was COVID. If it was not, it definitely wasn't the flu. I've had the flu. It was not the flu.
Well,
And it wasn't a
different
common
strands of the
cold.
flu.
But anyways, that is my concern. Why are you talking about this whiskey? Why are you forcing everyone to take a glass from you when other things exist that they might want to try?
I think your analogy is a little.
I think it's good enough to communicate the point that all this other stuff exists, including the fact that if you're not high risk,
You're taking an analogy of
the only
whiskey in itself is like it's a meaningless gesture,
right?
It's
And if you don't drink the whiskey, nothing's going to happen to the other people. You cannot.
But if everybody,
sobriety is not contagious.
But yeah, exactly. Like if I don't like.
But my point is the emphasis.
If there's I think it's a better analogy. I get what you're trying to say. I just think you're using a very terrible analogy because it's like,
so make me a better one.
I think it's like you're in a neighborhood and 5 houses are on fire and the wind is picked up and it hasn't rained in 6 months. And we need to spray all the houses down to protect them. But there are certain people who are just like, no, I don't want that. I've got fireproof walls. Don't spray my house down because you'll make it moldy
and wet.
And I don't want that.
So that only affects them. So I think you have the same.
There's no good, but there's no. So I guess
I think the best analogy.
I
think the best analogy is with all the factors taken into consideration. The only one being talked about. The only one being talked about.
Disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you about the about wanting to debate the efficacy of ivermectin or other potential treatments. I don't disagree with you there.
But your question was why would someone be hesitant about getting the vaccine? And that is one reason why. Because there is a lot of emphasis being placed on it when there doesn't have to be.
Well, the FDA has finally approved Pfizer and Moderna. And it takes a long time, but I don't know why that's an argument, though. I don't know why I feel like that's everybody having a tinfoil hat on and just being just like.
No, it's not tinfoil to say
I think
that money is changing hands.
Well, that's what I think the tinfoil thing is. That's where it comes to me because it sounds very conspiracy.
It's not conspiracy. It's public record.
But here's your thing is I'm not taking this because they're making money off of it. And that's greed. I don't want to be a part of that.
No.
I get the argument of
you said risk assessment. So.
I get the argument of wanting to debate ivermectin and other forms of treatment. We should absolutely be doing that, right? There is data to support Pfizer and Moderna and now Johnson & Johnson. There is conclusive data since the vaccines have been out for a while that supports that they help combat the spread of the disease, not cure the disease, but prevent the spread of said disease. There is not enough data to support ivermectin. What are you looking? Are you Googling something? You're killing the bar debate, dude.
I'm just saying
you're killing the bar debate, but there's just not enough data. I'm not saying that we shouldn't look at it. I'm not saying that we should ignore it focus on. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there is data to support to the point that if you have Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, or Pfizer, and you get the Delta variant, there is a 98% chance you will not go to the hospital. 98% of the people going to the hospital with the Delta variant are unvaccinated people. That is a huge, huge number. That is a huge number. If it was a 60-40 split, that's a different question. That's a different thing. But the data there supports, the numbers there say 98% of the people getting hospitalized and 99% of the people dying from the Delta variant are unvaccinated is all the data you should be looking at. Because you can have all the discussions you want to have about
ivermectin. But I guarantee you, someone who's taking ivermectin is more likely, and unvaccinated is more likely to be in the hospital than someone who's vaccinated.
So if the vaccines work and the people going to the hospital with the Delta variant are unvaccinated, then that brings me to my original question of why are we pushing a vaccine? The people not getting the vaccine, they're running the risk. So they're either not wanting to get the vaccine because they're running, they're like tinfoil hat, they're putting a chip in me, or they just like me.
Because I go back to my original argument, because there are those in this in the population that cannot get the vaccine because either A, they're too young, or B, they have health issues that will prevent them from getting the vaccine. So we are now, as a society, responsible to protect them because they don't have a voice. So now back to the argument of abortion, we are having to stick up for them because even though they want to get the vaccine, they can't.
Yeah, but there's other options.
There's no data to support that.
There's as much data.
There is not that much data.
There
isn't because there are people.
So ivermectin was first used in the 1970s,
but not
and it was FDA approved.
Sure,
but COVID's been around as long for the vaccine as it has been for ivermectin. So the data that you're claiming doesn't exist is once again brings me back to my.
The data does not. There's no data that says ivermectin is capable of fighting. The data is inconclusive. If ivermectin was the only choice that we had in fighting COVID, you would not see the amount of, you would see a larger amount of people going to the hospital than what you see currently.
So right here on the FDA's website on October 22nd, they approved the antiviral drug
of last year.
Yeah.
Right.
2020. They approved an antiviral drug, Veklury, remdesivir, for use on adult and pediatric patients 12 years of age and older, weighing at least 40 kilograms, about 88 pounds, for the treatment of COVID-19, requiring hospitalization. So that's just one example, but that was before the vaccine existed. And they put it up on their website with approval, which means the studies and the assessment were taking place before. So that supports my argument of these things exist and the data is out there.
I'm not arguing that there's not other options. That's not my argument.
Right, but they've been around so much longer. COVID has existed for as long as COVID has existed. So what has taken place to assess whether or not it's a viable treatment for COVID or prevention for COVID took place during that timeline. The vaccine is the newest thing. It's the one that has the least amount of time as it directly relates to COVID, because even
but the vaccine,
as far as
what we're seeing with the vaccine currently, with the numbers that we have, with 98% of people hospitalized with COVID currently are unvaccinated. That alone tells you, right? That's excuse me. That alone says the vaccine is working, because there is a large segment of the population that is not going to the hospital with COVID because they are vaccinated, because they have Moderna, Pfizer, or Johnson & Johnson.
Right.
That's the number that we're looking at.
Sure.
It's not that.
So what number of those people, or what number of the people not going, have been using alternative?
I think you need to look at the people who have been using alternative methods that are in the hospital.
But what are those numbers?
I don't know, but you've got to look at them.
So
I think you've got to have that debate. You've got to sit there and say, but I think people would be sitting there. I think the argument then becomes, oh, well, that was made up by the pharmaceutical industry and blah, blah. Then we're going to steer off into another thing. The data exists unequivocally that Pfizer, Moderna and Johnson & Johnson are working the way they're supposed to. That data is there. We know that. The numbers tell us that. Are there other things that could work? Possibly. We don't know. We need to look at that. I'm not saying they don't exist.
I'm saying as it relates to COVID, there are two sides to it. When you have the vaccine or a drug, you have to look at it in and of itself.
Right.
And then you have to look at its effects on COVID-19.
Right.
The first half has already been done for decades as it relates to ivermectin. We already knew it existed. We already knew how it affected humans. That's one reason why the FDA was able to put that on their website, because they were like, we already got this part figured out. Then they say, okay, whenever a doctor or someone comes up and says, hey, I think this might work, which I didn't find the one for ivermectin, but I'm sure something on their website refers to it. And I would not be surprised if it was either during the vaccine rollout or prior to, because like I said, that first part was already done. We've already known how it affects humans, which people can take it, which people can't take it. So all we have to figure out now is how it affects COVID-19. And I would not be surprised if that information already exists, because we already had the drug. It was already FDA approved.
Right.
We were already using it.
We're arguing two different things. I agree with you. There's probably data out there that we have to go and mine about ivermectin.
No, I'm saying that
there is
people have already created these studies and these reports.
Right, but where are they? What do they say?
Exactly. That is my concern.
That is what I'm telling you. I agree with you that there is that debate to be had. There is that data to go out and mine. I'm not disarguing that. I'm not arguing against it. I'm not saying that's not true. What I'm saying is, yes, that is absolutely a thing that we should be looking at. But what we're ignoring, what we're not talking about, we're arguing apples and oranges. That is a thing over here.
Comparison.
Right? Ivermectin is something that we should, anything that is out there, we should absolutely be looking at. If there's conclusive studies that says, if there's peer-reviewed journals that say ivermectin does or does not work, that we should know that. Right? We should absolutely know that. If it's inconclusive, then we should study it more. Right? You agree with that statement?
I'm saying it's already been done. I'm saying that exists. I'm saying one of the reasons.
We need to see the data.
I'm saying one of the reasons why people like you and I don't know about it is because the government's not talking about it.
This is where we're getting into tinfoil hat. We got to. I agree.
To me, it's not tinfoil hat to ask a question. I just want to know, why is the mainstream media and government pushing the vaccine and not talking about anything else?
Okay, let's park that. Let's park that here. We're gonna park that one here, because I agree that we need to look at ivermectin in a logical way that says what is the value here. If there's data out there that already exists, let's look at it. Let's study it. Let's see what it is. I absolutely agree 100%. However, on the other side of the board, what we are seeing, and this isn't big government or news, the numbers are there, that 99% of people in the hospital right now who have COVID and who are in danger of dying are unvaccinated. That number alone tells me the vaccines for Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson are working exactly the way they should. That is the FDA study.
Yeah.
When you have 99% of the people who are infected with COVID who are taking up hospital beds are unvaccinated people, tells us the vaccine that 60% of the population has is working.
Right.
Because less than 1% of them are dying from COVID.
Right.
So that's what the data says. Now, I'm not saying we don't need to go over here and look at ivermectin.
I'm saying
we absolutely do. We can absolutely go look at it. We can look at that data. But you can't ignore the other hand that the number is telling us Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Moderna is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. We know this because 99% of the people
because it
in
came
the
out
hospital are unvaccinated. They don't have one of those vaccines running through their body. Doesn't matter that they've gotten sick before. It doesn't matter if they've been. We know for a fact that 99% of the people in the hospital never had one of those vaccines in their body. That's what we know.
right.
That is the argument to make.
Well, my original statement was I don't agree with forcing people to get it.
I don't agree with it either, but I
believe that it works. I told you, I believe that it works. It's effective. The numbers say it's effective. But when the vaccine came out, it was 100% less known than any other drug or alternative potential treatment for COVID-19 because it was brand new.
Right.
And it was just being rolled out. So we've already known that these other treatments and options exist. There have been other studies. I mean, there's a reason why the government is having refugees take ivermectin when they come in. They're having them take 2 doses when they come into the country. There's a reason for that because they know that it works in relation to COVID-19.
Is it COVID-19 or is it other stuff?
The purpose that they're having the refugees take it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. If they're, because when you say refugees, I'm assuming Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Right. When we went to Afghanistan, we didn't take ivermectin.
Right.
I had to get a polio vaccine, even though polio doesn't exist here. I also had to get smallpox, even though smallpox is because it exists there.
Right.
Right. So
if they're
my
coming,
question is are they getting ivermectin specifically for COVID or as kind of a broad spectrum? We're going to help you fight off.
Well, I feel like if it was
different viruses,
if it was a broad spectrum thing, then I'm sure they would have had us take it when we deployed there.
Maybe. I mean, this is where
I don't remember what the article said specifically, so I don't remember if it's specific.
Well, and I would have to know
who
wrote the article too.
But I feel like we're asking a lot of questions about a drug that has existed for decades, and not enough questions about one who's existed for less than a year.
Well, I think
it's fair to say that one has been around longer than the other.
Yeah,
one.
that's absolutely
and
true.
The speculation and the risk of death associated with ivermectin are the ones who listened to the dumbass reporters on the mainstream media who insisted on calling it horse dewormer because they weren't happy about the fact
I'm not going to argue
somebody had an alternative and they either got extremely sick or died because they took literal horse dewormer.
I'm not going to argue that there is some bias against ivermectin. I will agree,
especially after Joe Rogan shit.
I will agree with you 100%. Even before Joe Rogan shit. I mean, I think that is 100%. I agree with you. I don't think it is the.
You got a bottle opener?
Cure? No, not up here.
For my Yingling?
No, Yingling's a twist off, bro. It's twist.
Prove it. How to make Joe open my beer. Ladies and gentlemen, Yingling is a twist top. That's my one. I'm wrong once a year. That was it.
No, you're wrong many, many times a year.
You're wrong.
You're wrong. You're wrong. I agree with you that there isn't enough discourse.
I got to be honest with you. If it got to a point, I could be wrong, and I'd also take into account what everyone else is doing. But if it got to a point where it was like, if you work in the public sphere, if you have a job outside of your home where you're in contact with other people, then you have to get the vaccine or else. I really like what I do. And I don't know that that's a hill I'm willing to die on, because at that point, like right now, we already discussed the vaccine is like, it's almost 100% effective. Like That's not a concern.
It's
So
a-
if
it's
they
100%
came
effective
down,
in protecting you against serious complications from the disease.
I'm saying if they came down and they were like, the number doesn't matter. If you are employed and you come in contact with other people, you have to get it. I don't know that I would fight that
That's
fight.
So this is where I disagree with people. So I think anyone who may be listening to this realizes that I am for vaccines.
Right.
What I am not for is
The strong arm.
and the saying of you need to do this. And I'm definitely not for passports.
How many? No.
I think the scariest thing to me right
To
now.
me, that's so fucking dumb. Like,
The scariest thing for me right now is she's listening.
how many people are? How many?
No,
How many people are at your company? How many people work there?
40.
Okay.
The scariest thing for me right now that I'm hearing, which utterly terrifies me, is that there are, especially liberals, that are saying things like, we want to do vaccine passports. They are essentially advocating to make a cluster of this population second-class citizens.
No.
That is terrifying. The only reason that's terrifying is because we've done that before.
No.
And at the time that we did it, the justification for doing it was horrifying. Looking back on it, and it was horrifying then, but people were okay with it.
No.
We made, based on the color of someone's skin, a second-class citizen for the protection of white women. That was the reason for doing it. That's horrifying. That is how that's was ever a discussion is terrible. But I see the same things happening where we're going to protect people and say that these other people are going to be second-class citizens, and we're doing it mainly on economic lines. It's no longer based on, and well, it is kind of based on race, because the majority of people who are poor in this country are disproportionately people of color.
And I know in New York, but I'm not sure about the rest of the country. I think that's a large portion of the population who was against the vaccine because they were concerned for many, many other reasons.
Oh yeah, and they have absolute reasons to be concerned. With things like having done things like Tuskegee. I mean, that's people of color absolutely have every right to question the vaccine. I'm not arguing that fact at all.
So if they were to make the unvaccinated second-class citizens,
who do you think the majority of those people are going to be?
The majority would be the minority.
Exactly. The majority of the people who are unvaccinated are poor, right? Or lower or economically, I don't want to say poor, but are not middle class or upper class people. They are lower economically speaking. And the majority of people who are in low economic standing in this country are disproportionately Black and brown people. So essentially what you are saying is that, and I made this argument to my sister-in-law last week. She's like, I'm not a fucking racist. I'm like, kind of. That's what you're saying. Well, and she was like, well, poor people can go to bodegas and get, welfare food and blah, blah. I was like, that is something that is only in New York. That does not exist outside of New York.
You said
if you're poor and you are on welfare and you're on food stamps, you are still going to fucking Kroger or Harris Teeter or Food Lion, just like everybody else. But now you're going to have vaccine line, non-vaccine line. And I guarantee you, when those two lines stand up, there is going to be a drastic color change in those two lines.
Oh shit! You just applied a visual to something that is a really good analogy. Like I've never thought of that, but I've never had.
You might as well replace vaccinated with unvaccinated with whites and colored. That's essentially what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying to me.
And
if you are okay with that, you need to take a long, hard look at who you are in the mirror. Yeah, I'm pretty much saying if you're okay with vaccine passports, I'm going to go ahead and say you support Jim Crow and you're a fucking racist. And that's not okay. That's how I feel.
I agree with you, and I've thought about that, but I've never thought about it in the terms of going to the grocery store.
We've seen this movie before, and it doesn't work out. And the South has never fully gotten over it.
And it reminds me of the Better Off Ted episode where they make sensors for the water fountains and the lights and stuff, but they can't sense black people. So instead of fixing the technology, so the two lab guys, one's a white guy and one's a black guy, instead of fixing the technology, they just assign all black people a white counterpart, and you are only supposed to go around with them. It's funny as shit.
But that's terrible.
So Phil and Lem, well, it's a comedy.
From a societal standpoint, that's fucking awful.
Have you ever seen the show? You should.
So.
Oh my God, you should watch it. The Rossi.
But that's where my mind immediately goes when we start talking passports and drawing a line in the sand and saying on one side of it you have X and on one side of it you have Y, and you are two different people. That is so wrong on so many different levels. And anyone who supports it is truly un-American. I mean, if you want to talk about ending systemic racism and creating equality, true equality, you cannot be for vaccine passports and creating something like that. You can't. You fucking stand on one side of that line or the other, bro. Stand on it.
That's so true. Like I said, I never thought about it because I was like, well, this is what they're doing, but how is that communicated? You're like, yeah, go to the grocery store.
You look at New York City and like AOC, like this is who claims to be so fucking liberal and so
for the people
and for people. 80% of the African American population, the last study I read, anyways, was unvaccinated in New York.
Yep.
And they want to do vaccine passports up there. Man,
got another thing coming.
Fuck, dude, how is that okay?
You're of the part of the government that is for that, and that happens. You're not getting reelected. Okay. You're not getting reelected. Let's talk about how voter ID law is racist, and next thing you know, they're going out and getting their IDs and like
voter ID laws, and vaccine passports, in my mind, are one and the same. You are basically infringing on a class of people. I don't think there is not nearly enough data.
So I think my only question is how, because I may not understand it completely, but I thought the voter ID law was like you just have to show ID to vote.
You do.
So
well, you do.
How? I don't understand.
You have to. Well, what's the difference?
You can't.
What's the difference between that and showing an ID to leave your house and go to a grocery store?
Because you already vote. We're just asking you to prove who you are. Whereas with the vaccine
voter
passport,
ID laws are you have to, in order to vote, show an ID.
Right. To verify your identity.
Yeah. So
you
what's
already
the difference between that and showing someone a vaccine passport?
Because you have to have a vaccine to get a vaccine passport. To show an ID when you vote, you just have to have an ID.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, it's way different. You're not going to make some.
Well, voter ID laws typically also affect, by and large, people of color.
How? If you want to drink in the United States, you have to have an ID if you're over the age of 21. A person of color is not going to get.
I mean, how many times do you still get ID'd when you go to a bar? When's the last time you got ID'd to go to a bar and drink? When's the last time someone looked at you and said, "Before I give you this beer, sir, let me see your ID"?
I'm an anomaly.
No, you're old. That's what that is.
Sure, but still,
you
see what I'm saying?
Like,
if I am 20 years old, I don't have an ID. regardless of my skin color. And I know that next year I want to go out with my friends to the bars and I might get carded. I'm going to do what I can to ensure that I have an ID. So I'm just not understanding how that is the same, because I believe the number of minority people who have an ID versus the number of people of a minority who are not willing to get vaccinated are significantly different.
I believe
Very different.
There are lots of things affecting.
Why would a minority not have an ID?
I'm not saying minority. I'm just saying there. First off, there are very rural parts of this country.
Okay, now you're starting to sound like the people in the mainstream media.
I know. But look, I'm not saying look.
Why? How does that affect them?
Can I not agree with certain aspects of certain people? Is that not allowed? I have to. So you're telling me I have to agree in order to fit into being a conservative or being a liberal? I have to agree with everything everyone says on one side or the other of the issue?
No,
I don't agree.
I'm saying
it is your right as an American. It is your right as an American to go vote, and anyone who stands in that way is intolerable. So it should not be allowed. And so for you to sit, I don't agree with gerrymandering. I think that needs to be constitutionally fixed, to say that we cannot redistrict because of where people fall. Have you ever looked at how North Carolina, specifically this county alone, Wake County, Durham County, and Orange County, elect, and how it's constantly driven? You should go and look at that. It would shock you. It's terrible.
I'm afraid no.
It's a fucking terrible thing, because how they draw the lines to get how many Republicans in Congress or how many Democrats in Congress for the House of Representatives, they draw based on neighborhoods. Literally, you have a junction here, and then you have a line down a street, and then you have another box here, and that's one district. And they do it because this little section in between is a different race. Or is, poor, which is, again, disproportionately brown. It's fucking horrifying.
So they draw the lines through the neighborhood based on
where they can get the most votes.
No.
It's fucking terrible. And it should be constitutionally fucking banned.
So my question is, because I think the idea behind voter ID was primarily to prevent fraud, in a sense that you have people voting who don't exist, people, voting more than once.
Almost minute.
So let's just say
this whole thing about the voting thing that has happened in this country in the last, I'd say, 20 years. They have literally made mountains out of molehills. They have taken a handful of cases that, sure, have happened. And again, no system is 100% accurate. And they have said, see, we've caught a case. And this is, they've taken the exception as the rule, but vice versa.
But would it be?
There is not a lot of voter fraud out there. It doesn't exist. It never has. It has just been a parapet for people to stand up and say, I am trying to figure out how to prevent people that I don't want voting because they don't agree with me from voting. Because if those people can vote and they don't agree with what I say, then I no longer have the power. So I want to find a way to say you can't fucking vote. And so voter ID laws. So how can I get voter ID laws done? Well, I'm going to go out there and find the one or two cases that happen in this district of fraud. And I'm going to say, this happens all the time because, see, I fucking found it. You are a fucking con man selling fucking snake oil. That's what you're doing. And so it's despicable.
So if
I'm sorry, anyone who interferes with the unalienable right of someone to go out and speak their mind and vote because they disagree with someone is disgusting.
I agree with you on that. Where I have questions is
fraud doesn't exist.
It does, and it does happen
not on the scale that you think it does. There is no case at all.
I don't
That
think
has-
any is good.
there's-
You have people who have left California and moved and still got ballots delivered for the Gavin Newsom recall. They still got an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot delivered.
Because they can't register in the state that they're living in because they missed because their move or their promotion or whatever has prevented them from registering in their current district. So you're telling me if you work for a company, and I know this because I've lived through this, that I moved, my company says, hey, I need you to start work in a new state on this day. And it's to better your career. And I'm all for it. Let's go. But now I can't go vote because I'm now a child of no nation because I moved between two different states.
No, I'm not talking about
So I
that.
don't
I'm
get to
talking
have
about
to
the
say-
ballot
I don't have,
that
but
gets
I'm now in a new
delivered to your old
But
address.
but now I can't vote in my new address. Is that what you're telling me? I can't.
No,
have
I'm
this-
saying that this random ass ballot and multiply that by the number of people that's happened to is
But-
floating around out there
But
and
again,
free game for anyone who
you're
gets their
making
hands
a
on it.
mountain out of the molehill. Yes, has that happened? Sure, it has. Has it happened on the scale that you think?
Okay, so
Absolutely
so
not.
what's your opinion on the
It's
recall?
called cost of doing business.
Sure. So
The
I-
recall of Gavin Newsom absolutely needs to happen, and I hope that motherfucker goes.
yeah,
down
but
in
when
a
you
fucking
when you
flames.
close it and you send it in, one of the holes on the ballot covers is over top of the yes. So anyone that's handling a closed ballot can see whether or not that person voted yes to recall Gavin Newsom. And so it doesn't matter if you voted no, because they're going to keep that ballot. But if you voted yes,
I feel like
it doesn't
we're getting
matter.
into a hanging Chad conversation. Are we about to have a hanging Chad conversation?
I don't-
really don't have the
I
energy.
don't know enough about that one.
Hanging Chad.
I know it happened.
That was the recount for Bush Gore
Yeah,
way
yeah.
back when. God, I'm fucking old. But
I remember it. I just don't know a lot of
again,
the
but
details
they
on
were,
it.
But
So
this was a
I
great
agree
game.
with you that if you are eligible to vote, if you live in this country, like you should have a voice, and someone standing in that way, that should not happen. But my only question is, knowing that things take place, knowing that we have fucking
what's your expectation here? Is your expectation is that everybody's 100% honest and we have zero voter fraud? Because that's impossible.
I think we should do everything we can to bring that number closer to
that
zero.
number is already as close as you can get down to zero. You are literally making a mountain out of a molehill. You are going out and you are finding the less than 0.5% of fraud, and you are elevating that to where it is affecting 78 to 90% of voters. That is what this conversation is. And that is how, especially Republicans, and this is what disgusts me about Republicans, and I'm sorry to say, as someone who mainly identifies as a Republican, I am just, one of the reasons I'm just so disheartened with the party is because they are finding those one or two things and they're trying to make it the whole thing with the Arizona recount or the Georgia recount. There was even Republicans in those states have said, there's no fraud here. I don't know what this is about. And yet these voices are somehow getting a microphone, and they're small and minute, the fraud that they're finding, but they're making it for a case of 30, 40, 50,000 votes, which isn't the case. You might have 4 or 5. You tell me when 4 or 5 votes swung a national election. And I'm not talking about electoral college votes. I'm talking about popular votes. Doesn't fucking happen. You are making a mountain out of molehill when you are talking about voter ID loss. And you're doing it because you are so afraid, and not you per se, but the people in power are making it because they know that this is their last throw. This is their last stand to stay in power. That is all that they are doing. Period.
I just don't think it's racist just because
For
it to be
disproportion-
racist.
and especially in the South, voter ID laws disproportionately, and cases, federal, Supreme Court, appellate, district courts have routinely voted against, have not voted, but ruled against a lot of voter ID laws specifically for the fact that they are racist.
How?
Because of how they are gearing them up so that people of color cannot go out and vote. They are saying, you're sitting there saying, oh, well, everybody has a government ID or a government license.
Or can get one.
Or can get one.
You have 3 years.
Voter ID law is typically, to get that ID, you don't have to jump through as much hoops as someone who has a different color skin than you. For you, it's easy. For someone who has a different color, it's not. That's the problem with voter ID. Yeah, it's fine for you and your perception of it. And I know people who I have friends who are have different colored skin than I do. And they have told me, and they've shared their experiences of their families, and they have a much harder time to get those IDs because of how the laws are laid out. It's not getting the ID. It's not having one. It's getting it. That's the problem.
I guess I just don't understand, because if you want to drive, if you want to drink, if you want to smoke, if you want to do any of that stuff, in addition to so many other things, getting into the bar, whatever, you have to have an ID. So even if it was harder,
not necessarily.
What do you mean, not necessarily?
I mean, legally speaking, yeah,
that is a standard across the board. If you were to get your ID checked one time in your entire life,
again, I go back to, when's the last time you got carded going into a bar or buying dip?
If you get carded once, you have to have an ID. If you get carded one time, you have to have an ID to show the person carding you. It's not the number of times that you get carded, because you don't have to go get another ID every time you get carded. Yeah. But if anyone in this country wants to do any of those activities, then they already have an ID.
If you're going to go buy booze and you walk in, I know this because I used to buy booze underage all the time.
Sure.
And I walked in, I would go, I want to buy this 6-pack. I need a CID. Oh shit, I left it. Let me go grab it real quick. And I just leave the store and go to the next store and try and get
it. And then once you got an ID, it was a lot easier, right?
Yeah, because I didn't worry about it. But
once you hit 21,
I would find the store
and they asked for it.
Yeah, I would.
Then you would just show it.
Okay, I would then find the store that would not allow me to, that would be like, oh yeah, you look over 25. There you go, bud. No problem. Now it's different because that was a 2 minute.
So you're saying
that was a 2-minute drive for me to go from store A to store B to find the one store that's going to let me buy booze.
Sure.
However, I don't have that when it comes to voting, do I?
So you're saying there's a portion of the population who doesn't have ID because they're driving store to store to get cigarettes, alcohol, and driving with no driver's license.
There's definitely challenges. And I'm not saying it's based on color, but there's definitely challenges in areas of this country for people to get from point A to point B and to get IDs. I mean, think about it. Going to the DMV to get an ID. What kind of time does that take for most people?
Nobody wants to go there more than once.
Nobody wants to go there, but think about the actual act of going. Once you're there.
What does that what does the headache that the DMV is have to do with someone's
hand to mouth? As a poor person, and this is regardless of color, but when you're poor and you're living hand to mouth and you're working by the hour, it makes a huge fucking difference.
But
if I'm someone,
if you're working by the hour,
if I'm dependent, seriously dependent on every hour I work, and I've got to go devote 4, 5, 6 hours at the DMV to get an ID versus an extra $60 in my pocket, which could mean I'm going to eat that day or not.
How are you getting to and from work?
I could fucking be living in the woods out back for all you know.
Sure. I feel like we're making that portion of the population who would struggle for 3 years to get an ID before they get to vote again. very smaller and smaller.
Well,
Because inside of New York City, the people who do not have to have ID,
I think there is a large.
well, now is zero.
A larger segment of people than you can that there is a larger segment than you know of that struggle like that in this country.
Sure, but
there is a
unless they don't drink, don't
large-
smoke, and commute to work,
there is a large segment of there, and there are.
That's a lot of boxes to check.
There is a large segment of population in this country, larger than what most people realize, that live that kind of life, that have to make tough choices, that says, I cannot afford. I'm doing everything I can to be a better human being and provide better life than what I had to my children, which means I have to make real conscious efforts to make choices, tough choices. Am I going to go to work today, or am I going to go get an ID? Am I going to go to work today, or am I going to go get a vaccine? Because if I get that vaccine, I may be out a day, and my company or the people I work for aren't going to pay me for being out sick. So is it worth me missing 2-3 meals to go get a vaccine? It's not. That is a huge segment of our population. Huge. The middle class in this country has shrunk drastically in the past 20 years. You now pretty much have a larger population of haves and have-nots. That is a huge segment of the population. And that's not just black and white. That's just economics. Shut you down. You're to Google now. I'm sorry. I think that was pretty controversial.
If you want to do almost anything outside of your home in the United States, you have to have some form of ID. And I see where you're coming from as far as, do I eat or do I go get an ID? Do I go to work or do I get an ID? You know, because you're talking about people.
First of all, you really don't need an ID for much. You really don't. Because in this country, if you are walking down the street, you are not required to have an ID on you. A cop cannot legally stop you and say, let me see your ID. We are not required to have papers to go from point A to point B. Now, if we are in a motor vehicle and we are operating it, sure. But if we are using our own legs, or someone is giving us a ride, or we jump on a public transit bus, guess what, bud? We aren't required to have an ID. Because this isn't 1930s Germany. You don't have to present papers whenever someone in a uniform asks for them.
No, but
because we have freedoms. We have the freedom of movement. We can do that.
But
there are a lot of people.
There is not a large portion of the population opposing getting an ID because they don't have to have one. If they go to the store to get something that requires them identify themselves, whether by name, age, or what have you, and they get kicked back because they don't have an ID, it would be it would be easier for them to get the ID for their shopping experience in the future than it would be to
but there aren't that
die on the
things
proverbial
that require
hill.
An ID.
There's
alcohol and tobacco. That's it.
Driving.
And if you drive. So if
getting
you
a
don't
vaccine,
do one of those three,
getting a vaccine.
No, the vaccine doesn't require an ID.
It's medical. You don't show ID.
You don't need one
to get a vaccine. That doesn't check out.
You absolutely don't need one. In fact, you don't need an ID. You don't even need an ID to go to a hospital.
Sure, but if you are unconscious, they're going to put something like Joe Schmo on your bracelet until you wake up.
If I go with a giant gash on my leg and I need to be seen by a medical professional, I do not need an ID.
I mean, if you
don't need one,
if you lie about your information, then that is going to go under a.
Doctors are legally bound to fix you if you show up to a hospital.
Sure,
if
but
you
we're
show
talking
up to
about
a-
your medical records.
you-
So
it
later
doesn't
on,
matter.
when they put metal in there and later on down the road, you have issues or complications and you're at another hospital and they go to look at your records and they don't exist because it's under a different name.
Well, guess what? That's well. So now you've got to have medical insurance, which a large even larger population of this country doesn't have.
You're talking about the payment for the procedure. I'm talking about the record keeping of it. I'm talking about it going under
Dude,
your
Dude,
social
you
security
think-
number.
What do you think? We're all in a database? That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist at all in the medical field. How many times have you gone to a new doctor and they're like, well, can you get your medical? What do you think? They're just punching in your social and pulling up all. No, they're looking at you and go, you need to go to your old doctor and give me your medical and get your medical history. Or they're asking you for your own medical history and relying on you to tell the truth. And if they think that you're not telling the truth, they're going to go, hey, bud, if you're lying to me, understand this. I could kill you if you don't tell me the truth. They're not pulling your name up in a fucking database and saying, here's everything that you've ever done. That just does not happen at all. We don't have that kind of ability. That doesn't happen.
So in the Army, when I would go to the aid station or the
Yeah, but that's the
TNC,
Army. You go into a doctor right now, not in the Army, he is not going to know jack shit about what the Army did to you, medically speaking, unless you tell him.
right?
Period.
But if I were to give him my medical records
You have to physically give that to him.
and it's got my name and my social on it,
Yeah.
so that's identification.
Right. Everybody has a social security number.
That's what I'm saying. Your records are kept, whether they're new or old. If you're at a hospital getting treated, you
Yeah,
have
but
to
if you
give
go
them
in-
information.
if
If
you
you
go
give
to-
them a fake name and
if you
social
go
security
into a
number,
if you go into a new doctor's office and you tell them, here's my name and my medical and my social security number, they're not going to punch that into a computer and pull it all up.
right?
They're going to tell you, hey, go get me your medical history. Oh, well, that's in another state. Well, okay, can you not get it? Can you have them fax it to me? No, you can't. Well, just write down on this piece of paper everything that's ever happened to you,
And at
Every
the top
sentence.
of that piece of paper, they're going to ask for your name and your social.
which you, which you can lie about. You can go 1111, 111, 1111. They still have to treat you.
But that still hurts you, because
Yeah,
we're talking
They
about.
still have to treat you.
Look, all
If
I'm
you
saying,
show up with
all
a
I'm
gash in
saying,
your leg, it doesn't matter whether you have
All
fucking
I'm
valid
saying-
social or not. You're getting fucking.
all
treated,
I'm
bro.
saying is enough things require ID in this country that people get. I have known people who have ID because they need an ID and they don't drive because they're from New York and they use the subway for so
Yeah.
long, but they still have an ID.
Yeah,
If you want to leave this country and go to another country, you have to have a passport.
yeah. Guess what? Not a lot. A lot of poor people aren't taking fucking vacations in Cancun, bro.
No,
Doesn't happen. They're not leaving this country. I hate to tell you, they're not getting a fucking passport because they don't need one.
right. But
There is a larger segment than what you've actually gone out and experienced.
who are these?
There is census data tells us that.
How,
There is a large majority of people in this country, about 28% of people in this country live well below the poverty line. Well below. When I say well below, I mean they are making $9,000 a year. Can you imagine living on $9,000 a year anywhere in this country?
little bit.
I mean, that's fucking hard. No, that's your total income coming into the house. That's not you and your wife. That's just that's not just you, and then your wife is making 20, and your combined is 29. Combined income is 9,000.
I
10,000.
just don't see how, if that guy goes to buy a pack of cigarettes and he's like, oh, I have money for cigarettes now. One time at some point in his life, he has gotten carded for the cigarettes. And he's like, you know what? It'd be easier if I had
So
ID.
You're thinking he wants to go get an ID. He knows he needs an ID to go get cigarettes at 9 out of 10 places, or to go get alcohol at 9 out of 10 places. His choice is, I'm going to miss work, and I can't afford to do that. to go get that ID. So I'm not going to worry about that. But you're saying he is now no longer allowed to have a say in how he's governed.
No, I'm saying I feel like it's more likely. I feel like the percentage
I tell you what, this is where I'm fine with having voter IDs. Is if the government provides free of charge 100% to everybody in the country who is over the age of 18 an ID.
be okay with that too, just because I don't like fucking paying for it.
Yeah. Well,
And
you're going to pay
going-
for it in taxes.
Going to the DMV to get bent over.
Yeah. Nope. You get it. You don't have to go to the DMV. It's all shipped to you. You fine with that?
Well, yeah, but according to
But then how are we going to be fighting fraud against that? People are going to be intercepting mail. I mean, like,
because it's
I
got
just
your
don't-
picture on it. An ID has your photo on it.
some of them, not all of them. Your social security card doesn't.
That's a social security card.
That's a
I'm
form
talking
of
about a
ID.
photo ID. If
No,
we
no,
had
no, no, no,
voter
no. A
ID,
social security card is a form of ID.
sure, but if
does
we
not
had
have your
voter,
photo on it.
why would we issue IDs to people without their photo on it? Why
How
would
are you supposed to get everybody a picture of
'Cause
everybody in their country?
my driver's license has my photo on
but
it?
you're equating a driver's license to an ID, and the
Mm.
only form of ID.
No,
Not the
I'm
only form of
saying
ID.
what? How would this voter ID thing work?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't. Everyone's got to go somewhere to get a picture taken.
No, you.
I know.
First of all, the DMV exists, so if they have to go somewhere, they can go there.
Yeah.
So- Secondly,
But we're back to now they have to miss work, or they have to miss out on the chance to make what little money they can to go sit at the DMV. And they are going to actively make the choice not to fucking do that.
the number of people that applies to is equivalent to the number of voter fraud
No,
that we have going on.
no, not true. Not true at all. That is a fallacy. That number applies to at least 20%, 22% of the population, whereas voter fraud exists in less than 1% of the population.
22% of the
That is a
population based
huge
on
difference.
what?
You're talking census data.
Yeah, but if I have a household with people in it and I fill out the census, I'm accounting for everyone in my household. If my kids are under 18, they might not have a driver's license yet.
What are you talking about?
So if 22% of the population,
Is below the poverty line.
yeah.
Okay.
So how many of those people don't have ID?
I don't know. But you're talking about someone going to sit somewhere and lose on income. That's the big thing, is you are putting an unburdened thing on them in order to participate in how they are governed. It is unfair.
I mean, where I agree with you is
For the fact to prevent something that happens in less than 1% of elections.
where I agree with you is the whole using the voter ID in order to prevent fraud when we're placing the responsibility of preventing fraud on the individual voters by asking them to have an ID. I agree with you there. We're saying, okay, you have to have an ID to vote because that guy over there filled out 2 ballots at one time.
That one
4
time.
years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
I-
I agree with you there.
I just
I don't agree that a large percentage of the population doesn't have an ID because we all know somebody that smokes cigarettes or does tobacco, that drinks alcohol, that drives a car.
Right. But there,
If you've got a job, okay, and your family depends on you to bring in the money for that job, and it requires for you to get to and from work, you probably have a car. And then if you don't,
so you asked how many people I have working for me?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I have less than 40.
okay,
All right. So how many people do you think drive to my office to come to work every day?
well, you said it's a family-owned business, so
No,
if it's
it is family owned, but how many people, not including carpooling, how many people do you think I have walking to work that physically have to walk to come to work to clock in to do their job?
20.
Well, that's 50%. That's very, very high. No. We got 4 people,
Okay.
which is still pretty large considering that's 3%, 4%.
Have you?
No, that's larger than that. Hold on.
Did you?
My alcohol brain is not working. Oh shit! I've got to get going pretty soon.
Isn't it? 10%.
It is. I think it's 10%.
4 people out of 40.
It's 30.
1 out of 10.
36. So it's 11%. 11% of my workforce walks to work because they don't have a car.
Okay. So did you hire them or were they hired before you got there?
One was hired by me. The other 3 were not.
When you did paperwork, did you submit either 2 forms of ID or
They
one
had to have
photo
2
ID?
forms of ID, one of which was a social security card, which does not require a picture.
Right. But that Social Security is registered with the federal government for tax purposes.
Yeah. Guess what the other one was?
Birth certificate?
Yeah, you think birth certificate has a photo ID?
No,
So they had to provide 2 forms of ID without a picture.
so I mean they're identified though.
Yeah, their name and
I mean they would have to do the same thing if they went to get a photo ID. The only difference is I think when I do paperwork with someone and they give me a photo ID, I just scan that into the system. Whereas if they give me 2 forms of ID,
well, you should be to do an I-9, you have to have 2 forms of ID.
I don't handle that aspect. So I always get it and have gotten it since we started hiring people, but he's never come to me.
That I made, he lives 8 blocks away.
I-9 is employment eligibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So on I-9, you need to have 2 forms of ID. You have a birth certificate, which you need to maintain a copy of. You need to have birth certificate, driver's license, passport. You need to have at least 2 of those 3.
I think we're about done unless you want to keep going. I think you said you had something going on.
Yeah, I got to go to the baseball game tonight.
Oh.
And we got to leave for that here pretty soon.
Oh.
But that is the 2 forms of ID. And so there's no pictures on it. And this guy walks to work every day. And when he misses work, he doesn't get paid because he hasn't worked for me long enough to get PTO.
What's he do?
He's a warehouseman. He walks every day 10 blocks. 10 blocks? He walks every day to and from work, and he's on his feet every day. And he knows that if he has to go to the DMV and sit for 6 hours, he's going to miss out on work and not get paid because he doesn't have PTO right now because he hasn't been there past a certain amount of time. Once he gets to a certain amount of time, if he chooses to take his PTO to go sit in the DMV, fine. But then he's going to figure out how to go get to the DMV. It's on the other side of town. And so he's got to weigh, is it worth it? So I've got to spend the money to go catch the bus, go over there, pay the whatever it is, $10. And he doesn't.
Hey, if somebody doesn't need an ID, I get it.
But that's the thing.
If somebody is like, hey, I'm living paycheck to paycheck.
I think that's a small percentage of the population. It is. What I'm trying to tell you is it's not. It's not. It's a lot larger than what you think. That's my thing. Is you think that it's a small. It's as small as fraud happens, and is what you said. And I'm telling you, it's not. It is a lot larger than you think. And yeah, sure, there are things that we can do to fix a lot of that. And I'm all about people pulling themselves up by their bootstraps.
Well, I've been a huge advocate for, which I think in a sense it already has, but privatizing the DMV. Because if you can get a kiosk at McDonald's to replace a person, then hey, I'm all for replacing the people that work at the DMV because I've had very, very few pleasant experiences there.
Most of those people aren't going to be able to go find jobs anywhere else.
Hey, I like people and all, but learn how to repair kiosks, man.
Yes.
Like you have to go to one to get a number at some of them. It's like, why can't I just do the rest of the shit here? Elon Musk create DMV kiosk machines. Now you can put one on each corner. It scans your face when you go up there. I mean, fuck, my phone does that. And then it's like, all right, you
That's
are who you
still
say you
terrifying
are.
to think about.
I don't care. And then your tax dollars contribute to everyone's ID, so they're free.
Yeah.
You just have to walk up to the machine.
When you put this shit up, this podcast up, we're gonna get canceled.
I might edit it tonight and do an hour of it for this week.
It's up to you. I don't care.
He said we're gonna get canceled as fuck.
We're gonna get canceled as fuck.
This is the Veteran Talk Show. If you or someone you love is suffering as a victim of sexual harassment, sexual assault, needs help with addiction and recovery, or mental health and well-being, then please go to veterantalkshow.com/resources. This show is hosted, produced, and edited by Ryan Smeltz. Our co-host is Joe Ballack, and a guest starring veterans.